Chapter 238. 9 soul armament swords appeared from Lin Tian's side one after another. Like bolts of lightning, they flew forward to block Bai Yunfei's attacks. No pop-up window. Such a scene instantly caused the expressions of everyone around the martial arts stage to change. What's that? The students of the 100 Refinements workshop were shocked. Just like Bai Yunfei, Lin Tian was able to control 9 swords at the same time. Is that the 100 Refinements technique? How? How can Lin Tian know this technique? That's impossible. But it's too similar. Everyone was aghast. Clang, clang, clang. On the martial arts stage, the 18 treasured swords collided with each other, constantly emitting metallic sounds. Puan looked incredulous. That guy came to the Keeper's Hall a few days ago to exchange for 15 swords. So that's how it is. Su Feng was petrified from the side. At this moment, even the expressions of the sun-scorching sect master and Elder Luo changed. How can that kid know the secret technique of the 100 Refinements workshop? That's impossible, Elder Luo exclaimed. Sect Master Fen Yang's eyes flashed with a bright light, and a trace of gratification appeared on his face. On the other side of the stage, Zhuishang's face was ugly to behold. He had thought that Bai Yunfei would be able to defeat Lin Tian and kill Lin Tian with ease. He hadn't thought that Lin Tian would be able to use the same technique as Bai Yunfei to completely nullify Bai Yunfei's attack. Clang! Another sword hum rang out as the 18 swords clashed against one another. I don't believe it, Bai Yunfei roared. The 9 swords vibrated together, emitting sword whistles as they crazily attacked Lin Tian. Lin Tian's face was impassive. His 9 swords clashed against Bai Yunfei's 9 swords. The 2 swords clashed against each other with the same technique. For a moment, neither side was able to win. Another sword hum could be heard as the 10th sword appeared from Lin Tian's side and flew towards Bai Yunfei. Yu clang! The 10th sword came flying over, interrupting Bai Yunfei's words. He used the supreme treasure in his hand to block it. Lin Tian's expression was calm. The 11th sword appeared and slashed out. Bai Yunfei's expression froze, full of astonishment. This, 11 swords? That's even more than that, Bai Yunfei. What the hell is going on? The crowd's expression changed. On the martial arts stage, Bai Yunfei was both shocked and furious. However, blocking 2 treasure swords at the same time wasn't a big problem for him. With a wave of his sword, he forced the 2 swords flying towards him away. However, in the next moment, Bai Yunfei's expression changed again because a 12th sword had appeared outside Lin Tian's body and was slashing towards him with a swish. Then, the 13th sword appeared beside Lin Tian. Clang! The 13th sword vibrated, and a silvery beam of sword light swept through the sky before slashing into Bai Yunfei's chest with a poof. Blood oozed out of Bai Yunfei's chest, and he retreated several dozen steps in a row. Bai Yunfei stared at Lin Tian with wide eyes. Lin Tian's face was expressionless. Only the corners of his mouth slightly curved up in a cold smile. Are you afraid? Something you can't imagine is happening right in front of your eyes. As soon as he finished speaking, the 14th sword appeared. Swish! With the sound of something breaking through the air, the 14th sword instantly slashed towards Bai Yunfei. Of the 14 treasure swords, 9 of them were aimed at Bai Yunfei's 9 swords, and the other 5 were aimed at Bai Yunfei's body. Bai Yunfei used the sword in his hand to block, but even with the 4th layer of the heavenly layer, it was difficult for him to withstand the 5 swords outside his body at the same time. Moreover, as the 5 swords interfered with him, his control over his 9 swords immediately weakened a lot, and the 9 swords became somewhat chaotic. Damn it! Bai Yunfei was furious. However, this anger was of no use at all, because in the next moment, the 15th sword appeared beside Lin Tian. Whoosh! The appearance of the 15th sword was like a huge boulder pressing down on Bai Yunfei's shoulder. Bai Yunfei gave a muffled groan. Immediately, his control over his own 9 swords became very weak. 15 swords! He's summoning 15 swords at the same time. Bai Yunfei was only able to control 9 swords when he was at the 4th layer of the Sea of Consciousness. But he's he's summoning 15 swords at the same time. Crazy! I'm going crazy! No, this world is going crazy! Many people's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. Originally, Bai Yunfei being able to control 9 treasure swords at the same time was already very frightening and frightening. But now, Lin Tian was summoning 15 treasure swords at the same time. How frightening was that? At this time, many people thought back to Lin Tian's embarrassing state under Bai Yunfei's sword and couldn't help but twitch their lips. Hiding his strength all this time? Pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger? Someone muttered, "Clang, clang, clang." On the martial stage, the swords clashed continuously with the sound of metal. At this moment, the tables had turned. The powerful Bai Yunfei was being forced back again and again with bloody wounds appearing on his body. Expressionless, Lin Tian spread his consciousness and caused the 15 treasure swords to tremble together. "I'll completely defeat you in your strongest field." Staring at Bai Yunfei, Lin Tiantan said indifferently. Bai Yunfei's face was furious. With a loud roar, his elemental energy surged. "Humph!" Lin Tianling laughed, and his consciousness surged. The 15 treasure swords vibrated even more violently, and sword energy swept out in all directions. The sound of weapons colliding echoed continuously. Gradually, Bai Yunfei was forced back again and was constantly injured. Staring at the martial stage, everyone was shocked. At this moment, Bai Yunfei's defeat was already apparent. "Damn it, where did you steal my 100 Refinements Workshop's secret technique from?" Bai Yunfei roared. At this time, Bai Yunfei's face was extremely gloomy. The 100 Refinements secret technique was his strongest technique, and also the foundation of the 100 Refinements Workshop's foothold in this world. But now, an outer disciple of the Burning Sun sect seemed to also know this technique, and was even better at it than him. This was a huge blow to him, and a huge blow to the 100 Refinements Workshop. "Can I take this as the wailing of a stray dog?" Lin Tian said. Bai Yunfei was furious, but the only response he got was the clanging of swords. Bai Yunfei blocked 9 of Lin Tian's swords with his 9 swords. At the same time, he also had to deal with the other 6 treasure swords coming at him from Lin Tian. His whole body was in danger, and his control over his 9 swords was getting weaker and weaker. "Enough!" An indifferent voice rang out. Lin Tian raised the Heart Soul Sword. The Thunderfire sword vibrated as he slashed out. With a clang, a sword energy about 10 feet long swept up and swept away all 9 of Bai Yunfei's swords in an instant. Then, Lin Tian controlled all the treasure swords and surrounded Bai Yunfei in an instant. At this moment, the tips of the 15 treasure swords were aimed at every corner of Bai Yunfei's body at the same time. Between the eyebrows, eyes, throat, and heart. The sharp sword energy immediately shocked Bai Yunfei into a cold sweat. There was no doubt about the outcome. "Senior brother, you lost?" Someone from the 100 Refinements Workshop murmured. Ashamed, shocked, and angry, Bai Yunfei glared at Lin Tian and shouted, "Where the hell did you steal the 100 Refinements technique from?" "This is a secret technique of the 100 Refinements Workshop that only a few people in the school can learn." "How the hell did you learn it?" "The 100 Refinements technique? Stolen?" Lin Tianlong laughed. With a trace of disdain on his face, his figure flickered to appear next to Bai Yunfei and kick out. With a bang, Bai Yunfei was sent flying to the edge of the stage. "You, whoosh!" Bai Yunfei opened his mouth, but just like before, he didn't say anything else. This was because at this moment, Lin Tian's 15 treasure swords were already in front of him. The icy cold tips of the swords were less than an inch away from his face. This scene made Bai Yunfei shiver uncontrollably. "Do you have anything else to say?" Lin Tian's body flickered as he looked down coldly at Bai Yunfei. Bai Yunfei was both ashamed and angry, but in the face of the 15 treasure swords pointing at him, he didn't dare to say anything. "If you have nothing else to say, then get out." Lin Tianlong. With that, he raised his leg and kicked Bai Yunfei in the chin. With a bang, Bai Yunfei was sent flying off the stage. He didn't hold back at all with this kick. Bai Yunfei's chin was dislocated on the spot, and after falling to the ground, he fainted. "Senior, The people of the 100 Refinements Workshop were alarmed and rushed to the place where Bai Yunfei fell. At this moment, the surrounding spectators were all staring with wide eyes. He won? That Lin Tian defeated the disciple of an elder of the Burning Sun sect and shattered the 100 Refinements technique that was said to be invincible in the same level. He also knows the 100 Refinements technique. The majority of the people of the Burning Sun sect were stunned. At this moment, in the entire Burning Sun sect, only Zhuoshang and Xian had the most unsightly expressions. In the sky, the Burning Sun sect's leader and Elder Luo were both happy and surprised. Headmaster, what's the deal with that little guy's technique? It's very similar to the 100 Refinements technique. Elder Luo said, I'm not sure. I'll try to ask him later. The Burning Sun sect's leader frowned and fell into deep thought. How could Lin Tian know the secret technique of the 100 Refinements Workshop? At the edge of the martial arts arena, the youths of the 100 Refinements Workshop helped Bai Yunfei up and stared at Lin Tian in shock and fear. Not only because Lin Tian defeated Bai Yunfei, but also because the technique Lin Tian used was exactly the same as the 100 Refinements technique. In midair, Elder Luo looked down and said, according to the agreement, you can go back. The people of the 100 Refinements Workshop trembled in unison. Without saying a word, they immediately supported Bai Yunfei and left the martial arts arena as if they were fleeing. The strongest Bai Yunfei had been defeated, and the airborne realm powerhouse had spoken. How could they dare to stay? Although the people of the Burning Sun sect wouldn't do anything to them, they only felt their cheeks burning at this moment. There was nothing more humiliating than coming here in high spirits and retreating in defeat. In the blink of an eye, the people of the 100 Refinements Workshop disappeared from the martial arts arena. Hey, all of you were so arrogant before, but now, all of you are like bears. Someone mocked. The crowd stared at Lin Tian, and many people's eyes were filled with awe. This newcomer to the sect was too powerful. Clang! At this moment, the sword hummed again. On the martial arts arena, Lin Tian raised the heart-soul sword and pointed it at Xian in the crowd. According to the sect's rules, I, who have reached the sea of consciousness realm, can challenge any inner disciple to be promoted. Xian, come up. Chapter 239. Reading on a mobile phone, Xian's expression immediately changed, becoming incomparably unsightly. Lin Tian actually challenged him at this time. Indeed, after reaching the sea of consciousness realm, one can challenge an inner disciple at will. If one wins, one can be promoted to the inner disciple. As for the loser, they have to return to the outer disciple and can't challenge inner disciples for 3 months. This Lin Tian, isn't it like playing with Xian now? Many people around the stage stared. Xian clenched his teeth. Hearing these voices, his expression became even more unsightly, turning as purple as an eggplant. Lin Tian, why do you have to go overboard? Are you proud of making things difficult for your fellow disciples? Zhuoshang said coldly. Making things difficult? The rules set by the sect. Am I making things difficult for him by challenging him? Lin Tian on Dao said. You can even defeat Bai Yunfei. You are far stronger than Xian. Challenging Xian now is simply humiliating him. Zhuoshang said. What a joke. Am I going to challenge him when I'm weaker than him? You're already so old. Are you really going to turn into a dog? Lin Tian showed no mercy. Then he said, besides, even if I want to humiliate him, so what? Are you going to bite me? Impudent! Zhuoshang was furious. Lin Tian glanced coldly at Zhuoshang, then looked at Xian. Come up. The spectators around the stage looked at each other. Then, they all looked at Xian. In the crowd, Xian clenched his fists. His face was somewhat distorted. I admit defeat. If Lin Tian was able to defeat Bai Yunfei, then Bai Yunfei would definitely be defeated in a single move. Rather than go up on stage and embarrass himself, Bai Yunfei might as well concede. That way, he wouldn't lose too much face. At this time, Xian was somewhat regretful. He regretted helping the 100 Refinements Workshop to bully Lin Tian. He's admitting defeat? Nonsense. Isn't this a very normal thing? Should he go up and get beaten up before losing? That's true. Many people whispered. The duty hall's Pu stepped forward and announced, Outer disciple Lin Tian has reached the Sea of Knowledge realm and challenged inner disciple Chu Xian. Chu Xian admitted defeat. From this moment onwards, Lin Tian is the sect's new inner disciple and Chu Xian is the outer disciple. Starting today, he will move out of the inner disciple residence and cannot challenge inner disciple for 3 months. The crowd suddenly went into an uproar. They did not expect Pu to announce the results so quickly. However, after thinking about it, this was the result. How sad. Sat my ass. Serves you right. Who asked him to shamelessly help other sects bully his own sect's people. How dare you testify? That's right. Why does Lin Tian have to save someone from another sect? And from what Lin Tian said, the grandson of that elder isn't a good person at all. Exactly. Many people stared at Xian and shook their heads. How could Xian endure it any longer? He immediately turned around and ran out of the practice field. Zhuoshang's face was very cold. If not for the Burning Sun sect's master and elder still in the air, he probably would have already left. At this moment, on the practice field, Lin Tian raised his sword again. Zhuoshang, I invite you to the life or death arena to fight. Lin Tian on Dao. Hearing this, the crowd's eyes suddenly popped out. What? Zhuoshang is at the 5th level of the Sea of Knowledge realm. So what? To be honest, the difference between the two of them isn't that big. Even Bai Yunfei was defeated, so there's a good chance that Bai Yunfei won't lose to Deacon Zhuoshang. Maybe he'll be able to. However, inviting a deacon to the life or death arena seems to be the first time in the history of the sect, right? This, it seems to be true. Many people's hearts trembled. Zhuoshang's face suddenly became incomparably gloomy and ugly. He, a dignified deacon of the sect, was actually invited to the life or death arena by an outer disciple. This was a humiliation, an absolute humiliation to him. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Today I'll kill you, Zhuoshang shouted. That's just right. Lin Tianling laughed. The 15 swords clanged, and the killing intent soared to the sky. Such a scene not only made some of the Burning Sun sect's disciples palpitate, but even Zhuoshang could not help but tremble. Enough, stop! A voice sounded. The Burning Sun sect's sect master and Elder Luo descended from the sky and landed on the practice field where Lin Tian was. Lin Tian was originally about to go to the life or death arena. Seeing the 2 giants of the sect land, he could not help but frown slightly. Sect master, elder, this kid is too arrogant. He needs to be taught a lesson, Zhuoshang said. Elder Luo glanced at Zhuoshang indifferently. Are you 100% confident that you can survive his sword? Zhuoshang's face froze, and he could not help but clench his fists. Lin Tian stared at the 2 people on the practice field. Facing them at such a close distance, he only felt that his whole body was full of pressure. After all, they were airborne realm powerhouses. They were the 2 giants of the sect. Lin Tian, come with me, the Burning Sun sect's sect master said. With that, the Burning Sun sect's sect master turned around and walked down the practice field. Lin Tian paused with a somewhat puzzled look in his eyes. Go, little guy. Elder Luo smiled. Puan had reported Lin Tian's origin to the elders and the sect master as soon as Lin Tian entered the sect. Both Elder Luo and the Burning Sun sect's sect master knew very well that Lin Tian was the disciple of that man. Because he was that man's disciple, the 2 naturally had a special regard for Lin Tian, which was why they had used Bai Yunfei to test Lin Tian's strength. And now, the results of this test were very satisfactory. Even Elder Luo, who was in the airborne realm, could not help but smile. At this time, the Burning Sun sect's sect master had already walked down the practice field and was walking out with steady steps. Lin Tian paused for a moment, then put away the 15 sword treasures and walked down the life or death arena to follow him. Where is Lin Tian going? I don't know. It seems that he went with the sect master. Quite a few people were curious. In the crowd below the practice field, only Puan had more or less guessed something and smiled faintly. Within the Burning Sun sect, because most of the people were gathered in the practice field, the sect seemed very quiet. Lin Tian followed behind the Burning Sun sect's sect master, following the burning sun sect master's footsteps towards the nether road. Very quickly, a quarter of an hour passed by, and no one spoke. Before, when you fought with Bai Yunfei, you lost and Bai Yunfei took you away. Were you unhappy? The burning sun sect master broke the silence. Lin Tian paused for a moment, but did not speak. He was indeed very unhappy, so much so that even his heart was a little cold. It's normal to be unhappy, I can understand. If it were me, I would be unhappy too. The burning sun sect master said. However, I still want to tell you that we only wanted to use this opportunity to test your true strength. Even if you lose in the end, we will still protect you. After all, you are our senior's only disciple. Lin Tian was startled. Only testing his strength? He was a little surprised, but then he was startled again. Senior? That old drunkard is sect master's senior brother? The burning sun sect master nodded, but more or less, he sighed. Senior hasn't returned to the sect for many years. Originally, the position of sect master was senior. If senior was here, the burning sun sect would stand at the peak of the four sects. However, something happened that year, and senior left the sect. Almost 100 years have passed. Lin Tian frowned. He remembered the matter that the beautiful woman had mentioned in the imperial city. What happened that year? He asked. He was very curious about an old drunkard's past. The burning sun sect master shook his head and didn't answer. Instead, he said, I'll take you to see someone. Lin Tian Wei was suspicious, but he didn't say anything. Following the burning sun sect master, Lin Tian soon arrived at a tall mountain on one side of the burning sun sect. The mountain was very quiet. At the top, there was a simple thatch cottage built on the edge of a cliff. At this time, at the edge of the cliff, a white-haired old man was standing with his hands behind his back, looking into the distance. Master, Lin Tian is here. The burning sun sect master said softly, his eyes revealing a bit of respect. Lin Tian was shocked. Master? The burning sun sect master actually called this old man master. If that was the case, then this old man was the grand elder of the burning sun sect. The old man nodded. The burning sun sect master retreated and walked to the side alone. Little guy, come here. The old man's back was still facing Lin Tian, as he calmly said. Lin Tian hesitated for a moment, then walked over. When Lin Tian approached, the old man tilted his head and fixed his gaze on Lin Tian. That kind of gaze made Lin Tian feel a bit strange, because it was like a grandfather looking at his own grandson. After a while, the old man revealed a smile, as kind as an old man. Not bad at all. Saying this, the old man patted Lin Tian's head with a hint of affection. This kind of feeling made Lin Tian feel very awkward, but he didn't know what to say, so he could only stand there awkwardly. Then he thought about it. Since this old man was the master of the burning sun sect master, then he was an old drunkard's master. In that case, this old man could be considered his grandmaster. Lin Tian thought to himself, was this the reaction of seeing a grand disciple? The old man moved his hand away. After dozens of breaths, he spoke again. Your master Changfeng. How is he now? Lin Tian was stunned. An old drunkard named Changfeng? He shouldn't be bad, but he's always drunk. He said, is that so? He still can't forget, and has been blaming himself. The old man's face suddenly darkened. Lin Tian paused, then gathered his courage and asked, Elder, what happened back then? He was really curious. He learned from the beautiful woman that an old drunkard was called the supreme of the generation, the sword immortal of the burning sun sect. However, such a man had now left the sect and was addicted to alcohol. This made him very curious. The old man looked at the sky. This old man's daughter, Qing Xian, was supposed to be his wife. That year, she participated in the Four Gates trial with him, and in the end she died. Lin Tian was shocked, and then he felt a sense of sadness. Elder, I'm sorry, Lin Tian said apologetically. The old man shook his head. That year, this old man lost my daughter, so naturally I vented my anger on Changfeng. This old man blamed him, resented him, and hated him because he didn't protect Xian Er. At this point, The old man blamed himself. However, this old man forgot that when this old man lost his daughter, he also lost the person he loved the most at the same time. This old man only cared about venting my dissatisfaction, but I didn't care about his feelings. That year, Changfeng knelt here for 7 days and 7 nights, and then he left. After that day, he never came back. Chapter 240. Reading on the mobile phone, Lin Tian could feel the sorrow of the Supreme Elder and said, "Elder, don't blame yourself too much. This is not entirely your fault. Please search Taste Book Yin Network to see the most complete." He thought for a moment and said, "Moreover, although Master is addicted to drinking all day and is not serious, his cultivation is still very strong. It seems that he has not fallen behind much." The old man was stunned for a moment, then shook his head. "Compared to you, no matter how weak he is still in the airborne realm after all. You will naturally think that he is very strong." The old man said, "It's not like that. He is really very strong." Lin Tian said, "Before I came to the sect, I saw the Valley Master of the Valley of the Harp. That person fought with Master for a while. Later, he said that Master is no worse than you." Lin Tian felt that this Supreme Elder was quite good, and he was an old drunkard's master, so he did not hide this matter. "There is such a thing. The Valley Master of the Valley of the Harp you're talking about, is it that girl Yu Wushuang?" The old man was shocked. Lin Tianyi was stunned. "Yu Wushuang?" It seems so. He did not know the name of the beautiful woman, but he suddenly remembered that Ji Yu called the beautiful woman Sister Yu at first. Thinking about it this way, the Yu Wushuang that the old man was talking about should be the beautiful woman herself. Yu Wushuang really said that Changfeng is not worse than me? The old man's eyes were a little surprised. "Yes, she said so." Lin Tiandao. Hearing Lin Tian's words, the old man looked even happier and could not help but laugh. Looking at Lin Tian, the old man said, "Little guy, I am 400 years old this year, and my cultivation is in the 9th tier of the airborne realm. Since that girl Yu Wushuang said that Changfeng is not weaker than me now, then Changfeng should have at least reached the 8th tier of the airborne realm. Do you know that the current masters of the 4 major sects are only in the 3rd tier of the airborne realm?" "What?" This time, it was Lin Tian's turn to be surprised. An old drunkard had actually left the leaders of the 4 sects far behind him. The old man said, "In that case, if that incident hadn't happened, perhaps he would have reached the immortal connecting realm." This, Lin Tian was even more surprised. The Transcendence realm was a realm beyond the airborne realm. An old drunkard was highly anticipated. In any case, after hearing Lin Tian's words, the old man seemed to become more cheerful and told Lin Tian more things. "This is for you." After a few dozen breaths, the old man waved his hand and took out a baodan. Staring at this baodan, Lin Tian's spiritual sea shook slightly. He could clearly feel that this baodan was different. The old man smiled and said, "Spirit Forging Pill." Below the 5th layer of the sea of consciousness, after taking it, it can raise one's cultivation by 1 small level. Lin Tian was shocked. "Elder, this is too precious." Under the 5th layer of the sea of consciousness, it could directly raise one's cultivation by 1 small level. Such a pill was probably several times more precious than a high-grade supreme treasure. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that it was priceless. "You are his disciple, and this is the first time we meet. I can't let you return empty-handed. Take it," the old man said. Lin Tian paused for a moment and finally took it. He said seriously, "Thank you, Elder." "No problem. Find a place with abundant spirit chi to refine it. The sect's Dragon Spirit Valley is quite suitable," the old man said. Lin Tian was stunned. To refine this spirit-forging pill, he needed to find a place with abundant spirit chi? As if seeing what Lin Tian was thinking, the old man said, "The spirit chi of heaven and earth runs through a cultivator's life. No matter what stage of cultivation one is at, even if one has reached the chaotic realm, they still need to absorb the spirit chi of heaven and earth. When refining pill treasures, the dense spirit chi surrounding them can make the absorption of pill treasure smoother." Lin Tian was surprised. There was such a thing. "Thank you for your guidance, Elder." He bowed. This is nothing. Even if I don't say it now, you will feel it very soon. All right, let's stop here for today. The old man waved his hand and said to the Burning Sun sect leader, Evergreen, send him back. Yes. The Burning Sun sect leader walked over. Lin Tian was surprised. The Burning Sun sect leader's name was Evergreen, and an old drunkard's name was Eternal Wind. Could the two be brothers? Senior brother and I were brought back from outside the sect by Master. Our names were given to us by Master, the Burning Sun sect leader said. The old man said to Lin Tiandao, Little guy, cultivate well. Lin Tian nodded and left with the Burning Sun sect leader. It was the same path as before. Lin Tian followed behind the Burning Sun sect leader. He couldn't help but ponder. An old drunkard had such a past. No wonder he was hugging his wine gourd all day long. Thinking about it, he suddenly felt a little depressed. After all, an old drunkard was the one who introduced him to the sect. An old drunkard was his master. Lin Tian, what you said to Master just now, was it true? You Wushuang really said those words? The Burning Sun sect leader asked. Although the Burning Sun sect leader and Lin Tian were separated by a distance, they heard the two's words clearly. Indeed, Lin Tian nodded. The Burning Sun sect leader didn't know if he was happy or sad. He just sighed softly. Just like Master said, if it weren't for that matter, Senior Brother would have already entered the immortal realm. The Burning Sun sect leader said. Lin Tian didn't know what to say. He just silently followed behind the Burning Sun sect leader. After walking for a while, the Burning Sun sect leader stopped. Lin Tian hesitated for a moment before he stopped. Sect leader, what's wrong? He asked. The Burning Sun sect leader stared at Lin Tian with a slightly more solemn expression. Lin Tian, let me ask you something. When you fought by Yunfei before, at the final moment, the technique you used, was it the 100 Refinements secret technique of the 100 Refinements workshop? It wasn't. Lin Tian shook his head. It really wasn't? It really wasn't. Lin Tian said seriously. Okay, since you say it wasn't, then I believe you. The Burning Sun sect leader nodded. Lin Tian frowned. Is the 100 Refinements secret technique really that powerful? He felt that it was somewhat strange. He had heard that each of the 4 great schools had a secret technique. The Burning Sun sect was naturally no exception. But now, even the Burning Sun sect leader was so serious when talking about the 100 Refinements secret technique. This made him very surprised. Naturally, when this technique is practiced to the extreme, one can control 49 weapons at the same time. It's extremely terrifying. It's the foundation of the 100 Refinements workshop. It can be said that among the 4 great schools' secret techniques, the 100 Refinements secret technique is the strongest. The Burning Sun sect leader paused for a moment, then said, Of course, this doesn't mean that those who practice the 100 Refinements secret technique are the strongest in the same realm. After all, in a real battle, the strength of the technique isn't the only thing that matters. More importantly, it depends on the person using the technique. Lin Tian nodded. He naturally understood this. At this time, he was thinking about another matter. He also had some doubts about this matter, because on the surface, the 100 Refinements secret technique was very similar to the weapon control technique he practiced. It could be said that they were exactly the same. But after listening to the Burning Sun sect leader's words, he could clearly distinguish between the two techniques. The weapon control technique was stronger. After all, the 100 Refinements secret technique could at most control 49 weapons at the same time, while the weapon control technique had no upper limit. When practiced to the extreme, it was said that everything in the world could be one's divine weapon, including the enemy's weapon, and even the enemy's body. Looking at it this way, the 100 Refinements secret technique was simply an extremely small branch of the weapon control technique. What's wrong? The Burning Sun sect leader noticed the change in Lin Tian's expression. Nothing. Lin Tian hurriedly shook his head. The Burning Sun sect leader thought that Lin Tian was worried about the 100 Refinements workshop, so he patted Lin Tian's shoulder and said, You don't have to worry about the 100 Refinements workshop. No matter what, the sect will stand by your side. After saying this, The Burning Sun sect leader once again took a step forward and said, "Right, don't tell anyone about the meeting with the Grand Elder." "Yes, I understand." Lin Tian Dao. The Burning Sun sect leader smiled and said, "Also, remember one thing. Although you're senior brother's disciple, we won't give you any special privileges in the sect. If you want something, you'll have to fight for it yourself. We will only give you firm support when the forces outside the sect threaten you. Do you understand?" "Understood," Lin Tian said seriously. He was already very grateful for the sect's kind intentions. "All right, go. I won't continue to send you off. Cultivate well, and don't disappoint senior brother," the Burning Sun sect leader said. Lin Tian nodded and bowed to the Burning Sun sect leader before leaving. Looking at Lin Tian's departing figure, the Burning Sun sect leader's face was full of smiles. This young man's personality was similar to senior brother's, and his aptitude was also as monstrous. After bidding farewell to the Burning Sun sect leader, Lin Tian followed the path the Burning Sun sect leader took up to the mountain and quickly returned to his residence. After calming down, Lin Tian couldn't help but think of an old drunkard. Back then, an old drunkard's most beloved person had died. He thought about it. If one day, Jiyu or Sushu suddenly died, he would definitely be like an old drunkard, or even more dispirited than an old drunkard. After all, they were the most important people to him. "I didn't expect that old man to be so infatuated. Even after 100 years, he still couldn't forget her," he muttered to himself. Taking a deep breath, he shook his head and calmed himself down. Wang! A faint silver radiance swirled out and enveloped his entire body. At this moment, he began to circulate the four extremity scripture, causing the inner energy in his body to flow through bit by bit, tempering his flesh and organs while simultaneously consolidating his cultivation. On this day, Lin Tian didn't go out again. He only opened his door the next day. Facing the morning sun, he breathed in and out for a while, then washed up and walked out of his residence. Yesterday, he had obtained a soul-forging pill from the Grand Elder. He had spent an entire night consolidating his cultivation and sorting out his blood so that he could refine this Baodan today and enter the third celestial realm in one fell swoop. At this time, he left his residence, closed the door, and walked towards the Dragon Spirit Valley on the west side of the sect. Lin Tian is here. That Lin Tian. That Lin Tian. The Lin Tian who defeated by Yunfei of the 100 Refinements Workshop. Someone emphasized. Looking at Lin Tian, many of the disciples had a look of reverence on their faces. Seeing Lin Tian walk over, many of them immediately made way for Lin Tian. Lin Tian was more or less speechless, but he didn't say anything and walked calmly in a direction. Chapter 241. Lin Tian took out his golden medallion and handed it over to the two attendants standing guard outside the Dragon Spirit Valley. The two attendants were surprised to see that Lin Tian had defeated by Yunfei from the 100 Refinements Workshop. 90% of the people in the Burning Sun sect knew about it, and these two attendants had seen Lin Tian's strength with their own eyes. None popped up. "Let's go in," one of the attendants spoke. Lin Tian was far stronger than them in terms of strength. Lin Tian nodded. Taking back his golden medallion, he walked in. The Dragon Spirit Valley was roughly 300 meters in diameter. Compared to the Pulse Condensation Cave of the Northern Flame Imperial Academy, this place was many times larger. Lin Tian could feel the rich, spiritual energy in the valley as soon as he stepped in. It was at least 10 times stronger than the spiritual energy in the outside world. The Pulse Condensation Cave of the Northern Flame Imperial Academy couldn't even begin to compare. That's Lin Tian? The Dragon Spirit Valley didn't have any special restrictions for the disciples of the Burning Sun sect. Any disciple of the Burning Sun sect could enter the valley to train at any time. Quite a few outer school disciples were gathered in the Dragon Spirit Valley at this time. When they saw Lin Tian enter the valley, they all looked at him with shock. Some looked at him with respect, some looked at him with fear. Lin Tian was calm. Ever since he started cultivating, he'd gotten used to this kind of look. Pausing for a moment, he scanned his surroundings. Soon, He arrived at an old rock next to an evergreen tree. The spiritual energy here was the strongest. That's many people's expressions changed when they saw Lin Tian walking over. However, at this moment, Lin Tian had already closed his eyes. Because of how rich the spiritual energy here was, Lin Tian was able to enter a state of emptiness. His four extremities meridians were able to circulate twice as smoothly as before. Just like that, a quarter of an hour later, Lin Tian opened his eyes once more, and his essence, energy, and spirit had risen to his current peak state. Looking around, Lin Tian carefully took out a small jade bottle. Inside it was a pill the size of a thumb. Spirit Forging Pill. The surface of the Spirit Forging Pill was light silver and emitted a faint fragrance. Lin Tian took a deep breath and carefully placed the pill into his mouth. As soon as it entered his mouth, the Spirit Forging Pill melted like snow. However, what surprised Lin Tian was that after the Spirit Forging Pill melted, it melted into the flesh in his mouth and gathered in his knowledge sea. This is the Forging Spirit Pill. It is indeed different. Lin Tian was secretly shocked. At this moment, he felt that there was an additional source of fire in his knowledge sea. His knowledge sea was like a pot placed on top of a fire source, and his spiritual energy was like the water in the pot. This source of fire was heating up the spiritual energy in his knowledge sea, causing it to boil and shatter the impurities in his spiritual energy little by little. Gradually, he felt his divine sense becoming purer and purer. Lin Tian was a little surprised. He didn't expect the Spirit Forging Pill to have such an effect. He calmed down and circulated his four extremities meridians even faster in the vast spiritual energy of the Dragon Spirit Valley. After this, he felt the spiritual energy around him gathering towards him. It was like a small stream flowing into the sea, entering his body through his pores. A faint glow flashed, and Lin Tian's forehead lit up again, becoming brighter and brighter. Moreover, at this moment, Lin Tian felt indescribably comfortable. As time passed, the light between his brows grew brighter and brighter, and it became purer and purer. This caused his perception of the surroundings to skyrocket. Lin Tian was pleasantly surprised by this. Continue, Lin Tian said to himself. Spiritual sense energy was the same as a cultivator's body. It also had impurities. The cultivation of the sea of consciousness was to constantly temper the sea of consciousness, making the sea of consciousness bigger and making the spiritual sense energy within it purer. To a certain extent, this was similar to the cultivation of the physique. The only difference was that the cultivation of the sea of consciousness was far more difficult than the cultivation of the physique. Lin Tian calmed his mind and focused. Light flashed between his brows. The divine sense in his sea of knowledge boiled like boiling water. Strands of filthy air rose into the air and then disappeared. Although Lin Tian was cultivating, he could clearly see this scene. His heart was moved. At this moment, not only did the light between his brows appear, but even the outside of his body was shining brightly. This feeling, is this divine sense? So powerful. Someone passed by and was shocked when they felt the ripples on Lin Tian's body. Lin Tian felt the presence of these people, but he did not care. He focused all of his attention on his sea of knowledge. As the effects of the Forging Spirit Pill took effect, the surrounding heaven and earth spirit chi began to madly converge into his body. This allowed him to cultivate his divine sense in an orderly manner, and it became faster and faster. 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, time flew by. After 4.5 hours, the light between Lin Tian's brows became as pure as the moonlight. Moreover, the aura on his body also changed. It was more intimidating, as if it had become much weaker. Some of the onlookers in the distance were shocked and showed an expression of disbelief. After another 10 breaths, Lin Tian opened his eyes. 2 rays of light flashed in his eyes. In the distance, some of the onlookers who looked at Lin Tian suddenly felt a chill run down their backs. It was as if they had been seen through. This feeling is really evil. Someone shuddered. Lin Tian looked around, then closed his eyes again. After the tempering of his sea of knowledge by the forging spirit pill, his sea of knowledge had become more stable and vast. His divine sense had also become many times stronger. It was also because of this that he had stepped into the third layer of his sea of knowledge in just a few hours. He felt that all aspects of his sea of knowledge had improved by leaps and bounds. At this moment, he closed his eyes and channeled the 4 extreme scriptures, absorbing heaven and earth spirit chi from all directions to consolidate his sea of knowledge third layer. The Grand Elder is right. Heaven and earth spirit chi runs through a cultivator's life. No matter the time, no matter the realm, no matter where, heaven and earth spirit chi is a very important existence. It has an irreplaceable meaning. After several hours of cultivation, the heaven and earth spirit chi in the Dragon Spirit Valley had entered his body. This made him realize this point. Before this, he thought that heaven and earth spirit chi was not that important after reaching the Sea of Knowledge realm. But now, he knew that he had misunderstood. Heaven and earth spirit chi was very important no matter the realm. A small amount of heaven and earth spirit chi might not mean much, but when the amount of heaven and earth spirit chi gathered together to a certain extent, it could be used like the forging spirit pill. It could be used to raise a cultivator's cultivation by a small level, or even a few small levels. Even for those in the chaos realm, the prerequisite was that the heaven and earth spirit chi gathered together was dense enough. After another 2 hours, Lin Tian opened his eyes again. Phew! Letting out a breath of turbid air, he stood up and walked out of the Dragon Spirit Valley. After 2 hours, he felt that he had reached the Sea of Knowledge. This chapter is not finished. Please turn the page. His realm stabilized a little. After leaving the Dragon Spirit Valley, he returned to his residence, washed up, and laid down to rest. Because he had been cultivating the weapon-controlling art, he had not rested much. Plus, after what had happened in the past 2 days, he was more or less tired. Although he was a cultivator, he was not made of steel. Too little rest was not enough. Just like that, the night passed quickly. The next day, Lin Tian woke up early and came to the Dragon Spirit Valley again. He sat down cross-legged and cultivated in the same spot as yesterday. Having just entered the third level of the spiritual sea, it was a good choice to use the dense heaven and earth spirit chi here to stabilize his realm. He chose that place again. Many people were moved. Many people were standing far away, but they were all looking at Lin Tian's position with strange expressions on their faces. Although Lin Tian's eyes were closed, he was naturally able to observe the expressions of these people with his current spiritual sense. He felt a little strange about this. These people gave him the feeling that he was occupying a position that he could not occupy. He thought for a moment, then shook his head. When he came, there was no one here. After calming himself down, Lin Tian channeled the 4 extreme meridians. Silver light flashed around his body. Almost at the same time, a handsome young man stepped into the Dragon Spirit Valley. Core disciple, Ling Yi. That's Elder Tu's disciple. Didn't he go out to train? He's been out for 2.5 months. What's so strange about him coming back at this time? In the Burning Sun sect, after the outer and inner disciples left the sect, they had to return within a month. Otherwise, they would be severely punished. However, it was different for the core disciples. Every year, the core disciples had a chance to stay outside the sect for 3 months. Ling Yi was one of the 4 core disciples of the Burning Sun sect. Not long ago, he went out to train. It had been almost 3 months, and now he was back in the sect. Ling Yi was about 20 years old. His expression was cold as he walked towards a direction in the Dragon Spirit Valley. Many people's expressions changed when they saw this. That Lin Tian seems to be occupying that spot. I thought it would be a while before Ling Yi came back. I didn't expect him to come back now. If Ling Yi finds out that someone is occupying the spot he usually uses to cultivate, I'm afraid many people were moved. At this time, Ling Yi had already walked far away. After turning a corner, Ling Yi quickly arrived in front of an evergreen tree. Instantly, his expression darkened. In the entire Burning Sun sect, who didn't know that this was his exclusive cultivation area. Usually, no one dared to come close. Even the other 3 core disciples wouldn't come here to cultivate. But now, in front of him, there was someone sitting cross-legged on that old rock. Moreover, it didn't seem like this person's first time here. Ling Yi. In the distance, many people stared at Ling Yi and then looked at Lin Tian on the old rock. They couldn't help but tremble. Ling Yi's eyes turned cold. He walked step by step to the old rock and coldly looked down at Lin Tian. Lin Tian naturally felt Ling Yi's aura. He opened his eyes and frowned. "What's the matter?" he asked. "You're cultivating in my domain. Tell me what's the matter?" Ling Yi said coldly. End of chapter. Chapter 242. Lin Tian was a little displeased. He had never heard that there was a personal domain in Dragon Spirit Valley. Full text to read. "Don't bother me if there's nothing," he said. Ling Yi's eyes immediately turned colder, and a majestic aura came out of his body. Lin Tian frowned slightly. He immediately sensed that Ling Yi was not simple. He seemed to be much stronger than Bai Yunfei. He was actually at the 5th level of the mindscape. But even so, Ling Yi did not give him much pressure. After all, he was now at the 3rd level of the mindscape. He was only 2 levels away from Ling Yi. Staring at Ling Yi, his expression also darkened. "Get out of my domain," Ling Yi said. Lin Tian stood up. Because he was sitting cross-legged on the stone to cultivate, when he stood up, it was his turn to look down at Ling Yi. "I'll say it again. Don't bother me." As he stared at Ling Yi, he could naturally feel that the other party did not have the slightest bit of goodwill. Towards people who came with ill intentions, he would usually not give them a good look. Ling Yi did not seem to like the feeling of being looked down at. With a slight leap, he jumped onto the stone and looked at Lin Tian from half a foot away. His eyes were as sharp as knives. Immediately, get off this stone platform. Reason, Lin Tiandao. This is my domain. Ling Yi was very domineering. Your domain? The Dragon Spirit Valley was a cultivation ground shared by all sections. Since when was it allowed to have its own territory? Who do you think you are? Lin Tianling laughed. I kind of understand why no one has come here to cultivate even though the spiritual energy here is so dense. It's because you've taken over this place. So what? Ling Yi said. Nothing. Lin Tiandao said, I hate people like you the most, scum. With that, he waved his hand and slapped Ling Yi's face. Because he had always used the 4 extreme scriptures to forge his body, his current physique could be said to be astonishingly strong. It was enough to be comparable to an expert at the 7th layer of the Sea of Consciousness. With such a slap, it caused the air to buzz. This slap was too sudden, causing Ling Yi's expression to change. As a core disciple, he clearly did not expect that there would actually be someone who dared to take the initiative to attack him in the sect. Moreover, the aura of this slap also caused him to be shocked. It actually caused the air to vibrate. In this hurry, he could only raise his arms to block. Bang! With a crisp sound, Ling Yi was sent flying, crashing heavily into a nearby valley wall. In the distance, the people who were watching this scene all felt their hearts tremble. They all retreated, fearing that they would be affected. This ruthless person really dares to attack. Doesn't he know that he is a core disciple? Ling Yi just came back. He probably doesn't know. Even if he knows, with that ruthless person's character, it seems like he will slap him. After all, not long ago, he directly invited the sect's deacon to the life and death arena. Many people whispered. Boom! A majestic wave of true origin energy rippled from afar. The valley wall of the Dragon Spirit Valley was shattered quite a bit. Ling Yi stood up, staring at Lin Tian again. Ling Yi's eyes were like that of a venomous snake. Cold, domineering, and self-centered. You think that the whole world should listen to you. That's the kind of person who describes you. You've circled an area within the sect's cultivation area, and that's your domain? Do you think that you are the sect leader of the Burning Sun sect or the Grand Elder of the sect? What a disgrace! Lin Tian mocked. Many people around felt their teeth ache when they heard Lin Tian's words. How could he say something like that? Ling Yi's face clearly became distorted. An extremely dangerous aura was emitted. It was as if a gale had swept up in the Dragon Spirit Valley, causing many disciples to change their expressions. Then, below, In the next moment, everyone saw a beam of light charging towards Lin Tian. It almost instantly arrived in front of Lin Tian. So fast, someone's heart palpitated. This beam of light was naturally Ling Yi. Ling Yi appeared in front of Lin Tian and directly grabbed Lin Tian's neck. "You're still far from being able to compete with me in terms of speed," Lin Tianling said. He raised his hand and grabbed Ling Ye's outstretched wrist. At this moment, Ling Ye's other hand slapped down. It was a hand blade, causing the air to hiss. Spiritual C-level martial technique. 100 palm slash. Someone exclaimed. Lin Tian felt a terrifying fluctuation, but his expression didn't change. He waved his right hand and used the shattering meteorite fist to meet this divine pulse realm martial technique. With a bang, the fist and palm collided. The true origin energy enveloping Ling Ye's palm was instantly dispersed. Of course, at the same time, Lin Tian's right hand was also rebounded. Ling Yi waved his hand, and a long sword appeared and slashed at Lin Tian. Clang! The sound of the sword was ear-piercing, mixed with a strong flame fluctuation. Lin Tian's face turned cold. He pulled out his inner spirit sword and slashed forward. The two swords collided with a loud clang, and a violent sword wind wantonly swept out in all directions. Ling Ye's face was cold, and at the same time, he was a little surprised. He knew all the disciples of the Burning Sun sect who had a certain level of strength, but he couldn't remember this person in front of him who was so powerful. "Who are you? The one who beat you up?" Lin Tianling said coldly. As he spoke, he kicked out. He really couldn't stand this Ling Yi. He actually encircled a territory in the Dragon Spirit Valley and occupied the place with the densest spirit chi. Even if he didn't use it himself, he didn't allow others to use it either. This behavior made him extremely angry. He had been cultivating diligently just now, but he was interrupted by Ling Yi, who even told him to get lost. How could he still have a good temper? Ling Ye's face was cold, and he also kicked out. Bang! 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 The two of them kept kicking and colliding. Wave after wave of true origin energy fluctuations spread out. Many people around them were shocked by this. That Lin Tian is already so strong that he can block that Ling Yi. Nonsense. If he can defeat that by Yunfei, blocking Ling Yi won't be a problem. What are you looking at? Looking at it now. That Ling Yi is the one who's at a disadvantage. Someone whispered. To be honest, many people in the Burning Sun sect were naturally unhappy with Ling Ye's arrogance and domineering. He occupied the place with the densest spirit chi in the Dragon Spirit Valley and didn't allow anyone to come close. It was really too much. However, even though they were unhappy with Ling Yi, his strength was still there. In the world of cultivators where the strong were respected, they could only remain silent. Now that Lin Tian had made such a powerful move, it naturally made many people feel good in their hearts. "What are you doing? Stop it!" Suddenly, a voice rang out. The two deacons guarding the Dragon Spirit Valley noticed that there was a huge disturbance in the Dragon Spirit Valley and ran in to check. When they saw Lin Tian and Ling Yi fighting, they immediately stopped them. However, the two deacons' expressions were a little stiff. After all, the two people fighting in front of them weren't people to be trifled with, so they looked helpless. Lin Tian frowned. His inner spirit sword paused for a moment and was about to withdraw it. In the Burning Sun sect, the deacons of the various cultivation areas were mainly responsible for maintaining order in the cultivation areas. Although Lin Tian didn't like Ling Yi, he didn't want to make things difficult for the two deacons here, so he chose to temporarily stop. Clang! An even more shocking sword sound rang out. Ling Ye's sword didn't slow down and instead became even more terrifying. This chapter isn't finished yet. Please turn the page. It became even more terrifying. Instantly, Lin Tian's expression turned cold. "You don't want face when I'm giving you face." With a clang, he fiercely shook his inner spirit sword, and the Azure Thunder Sword flew towards Ling Yi. Boom! The two swords collided, and powerful true essence fluctuations intertwined. It was extremely terrifying. At this moment, Ling Yi had already broken free from Lin Tian's wrist. Holding the sword with both hands, he slashed out, and 100 swords fell. Moreover, this sword light carried an extremely hot air current, causing the air to distort. It was extremely terrifying. Lin Tian was naturally fearless. With a flip of his wrist, the inner spirit sword slashed out diagonally. Clang! 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 The two of them continued to collide. The sword light swept across the surroundings, causing a lot of damage to the Dragon Spirit Valley. Do you want to destroy this place? Who can bear the responsibility? One of the deacons shouted. Hearing this, Lin Tian frowned. Even Ling Yi stopped. There were many spirit veins gathered under the Dragon Spirit Valley. If they were damaged because of the battle, it would be a big deal. After all, this was the sect of an old drunkard. An old drunkard's master and junior brother were all important figures in the sect. Lin Tian stopped attacking. He glanced at Ling Yi indifferently and walked out of the Dragon Spirit Valley. There were many sect disciples standing in front. When they saw Lin Tian walking over, they immediately made a path for him. The two deacons heaved a sigh of relief. They were more or less grateful that Lin Tian was willing to stop. Ling Yi stared at Lin Tian's back, but his eyes were filled with coldness. After leaving the Dragon Spirit Valley, Lin Tian walked around the Celestial River Pagoda. As he expected, he could now reach the 3rd floor of the Celestial River Pagoda. The Celestial River on the 3rd floor was much more spectacular than the 2nd floor. Of course, the pressure was also much greater. Lin Tian cultivated in the Celestial River Pagoda for more than 12 hours before returning to his residence. At this time, the sky was already dark. Lin Tian stuck a spiritual refining rune between his eyebrows and continued to cultivate in the spiritual sea realm. Although he was cultivating in the spiritual sea realm, Lin Tian also activated 3 spiritual gathering runes at the same time, causing the spiritual chi of heaven and earth and the power of the stars to continuously gather in his residence. Although he was cultivating in the spiritual sea, the spiritual chi and the power of the stars were still useful. Soon, the night passed. This morning, Lin Tian woke up a little later than usual. Because there were not many spiritual refining runes left, he engraved another 10 runes. At noon, he swallowed a fasting pill and headed to the Dragon Spirit Valley to prepare for a new day of cultivation. Lin Tian, a voice sounded, and Su Feng trotted over from afar. Lin Tian was stunned and stopped. Senior brother. Su Feng stopped and took a few breaths. Deacon Pu and wants you to go to the Deacon Hall. What is it? Lin Tian was curious. I'm not sure. You'll know when you get there, Su Feng said. Lin Tian nodded and said goodbye to Su Feng. Soon, he arrived at the Deacon Hall. Little guy, you're here. Puan greeted him with a smile. I heard that you had a little conflict with Ling Yi yesterday. How was it? Did you lose out? Do I look like someone who would lose out? Lin Tian Ondao. He had been in the sect for some time and was very familiar with Puan. When they talked, he was more casual. Puan smiled. You really don't. Then, Puan said, okay, let's get down to business. Our Burning Sun sect and the Valley of the Harp have always had a good relationship. Every year, we will send disciples to each other's sects to exchange cultivation and battle experiences with the other's outstanding disciples. It just so happens that this year, it's our Burning Sun sect's turn to visit the Valley of the Harp. There are a total of 10 candidates, and you are one of them. The sect master specially appointed you. In a chapter. Chapter 243. Reading on a mobile phone, Lin Tian was stunned. Visit the Valley of the Harp? Exchanges on cultivation and combat? Does this happen every year? He asked. Puan grunted. Every year. Understood. Lin Tian nodded. Thinking about it, the Burning Sun sect master probably knew that he had some relationship with the Valley of the Harp, so he let him go. He was naturally very happy about this. After all, Ji was in the Valley of the Harp. After going to the Valley of the Harp, he would be able to see Ji again. Thinking about it, they hadn't seen each other for a long time. Who else is there? He asked Pu, and the candidates are roughly 9 inner disciples. Apart from you, there are 8 others. As for the last person, speaking up to here, Puan chuckled. The last person is the core disciple Ling Yi. Moreover, this time, Ling Yi will be leading the team. In other words, he will be your captain and can order you around. He can order me around, and I can refuse to listen. Lin Tiantan said calmly. Puan laughed. I knew you would say that. Waving his hand, Puan said, all right, that's about it. Tomorrow morning, we will set off at the foot of the mountain. The round trip will take about 10 days. Go back and prepare well. Oh, how should I put it? On the way, don't mess with that Ling Yi anymore. I will try my best. Lin Tiandao. Puan smiled bitterly. Go. It seemed that the journey wouldn't be peaceful. Lin Tian nodded and walked out of the duty hall. Walking in the sect, Lin Tian couldn't help but smile, because soon he would be able to see Ji Yu again. After cultivating hard for so long, he could go out and see the important girl. He was very much looking forward to it. It was currently noon, so Lin Tian didn't continue cultivating. After pondering for a moment, he arrived at the demon's ceiling gorge and charged towards its depths. In the blink of an eye, he utilized the artifact control technique and quickly arrived within 80,000 feet of the gorge. Following a certain direction, he released his divine sense and soon found 5 return essence bears. Found it. Lin Tianyi smiled. The flaming thunder sword was unsheathed, and the weapon controlling art was activated. Immediately, 15 swords flew out at the same time. The flaming thunder sword chi also flew out in all directions. Not long after, 5 origin returning bears were lying in a pool of blood one after another. Lin Tian spat out a mouthful of turbid air. After his cultivation base had reached the 3rd layer of the Sea of Consciousness, his battle prowess had increased by a lot. After using the weapon-controlling art, the 8th grade demonic beast, the origin returning bear, seemed to be a little weak. Fighting against 5 origin returning bears together, he didn't feel the slightest bit of pressure. Lin Tian extracted the essence blood of the 5 origin returning bears and took out their beast cores. Then he turned around and left. Not long after, he found many moonlight birds in another old forest. He directly used the weapon control technique from a long distance and killed a few of them in an instant. He walked over and took out the brains and beast cores of the moonlight birds. Then, he rode on the long sword and returned to the sect. After returning to his residence, the sky gradually darkened. Lin Tian took out the clear heart grass and clear spirit stone from the stone ring and began to inscribe the divine, refining rune. He thought that Ji should have also stepped into the Sea of Consciousness realm. With the help of the divine, refining rune, the Sea of Consciousness realm's cultivation speed could be increased by 3 times. He prepared to inscribe some divine, refining runes for Ji Yu. In this way, the night passed very quickly. The next day, the sky was bright. Lin Tian washed up and tidied himself up. After closing the door, he walked down the mountain. When he arrived at the foot of the mountain, there were already several disciples waiting there. They were roughly at the 2nd layer of the Sea of Consciousness realm, and their chi and blood were very vigorous. Good morning, Brother Lin. Seeing Lin Tian, several people took the initiative to greet him. Now, Lin Tian's fame had spread throughout the entire Burning Sun sect. Facing Lin Tian, these people were very friendly. Good morning, senior brothers, Lin Tian replied. Others treated him with respect, so of course, he would not be arrogant. The group of people waited at the foot of the mountain. Soon, an hour passed. At this time, the 9 inner disciples, including Lin Tian, had already appeared. They greeted each other and chatted casually. Then time passed. Another hour passed, and it was almost noon. Why hasn't senior brother Ling come yet? Maybe something came up. Okay. Not long after, another hour and a half passed. At this time, noon had already passed, but Ling Yi still had not appeared. It's about time to put on airs. That's right. It's already been 6 hours. Do you want us to wait for a whole day? Bear with it. No matter what, he's still a core disciple. Someone said, these people were all inner disciples and knew Ling Yi very well. They knew that Ling Yi was deliberately delaying his arrival. Lin Tian stood quietly at the side. At this time, when he heard the other 8 people's discussion, his face suddenly showed some mockery. letting others wait for him, and then he would appear in the end to establish his own status? Thinking about it, it was really childish. He stared into the distance. His inner spirit sword shook, and he directly used the weapon Imperial technique. Brother Lin, the 8 people were shocked. Sorry, I'll go first. Lin Tianandao. He naturally knew the location of the Valley of the Harp. He could reach it alone. He was not willing to wait here, foolishly, for Ling Yi. Whoosh! The inner spirit sword drew a sword mark, and Lin Tian instantly went far away. Staring at this scene, the 8 people could not help but stare. He actually did not wait for the leader of the core disciples and went first. Sure enough, it's the style of that ruthless person. Someone muttered. Time ticked by. Soon, another 2 hours had passed. On the stone steps leading to the Burning Sun sect, a young man slowly walked down. It was Ling Yi. Ling Yi's expression was indifferent. When he came in front of them and swept his gaze, his face immediately darkened. This time, he was the leader of the team to the Valley of the Harp. He naturally knew who was going, and Lin Tian was among them. He deliberately delayed for a few hours before coming, but he did not expect that Lin Tian was even later than him. He actually had not arrived yet. Go and call Lin Tian for me. Who does he think he is to make all of us wait for him alone? Ling Yi said with a cold face. The 8 people looked at each other, and no one moved. Don't you understand my words? Ling Yi said coldly. That, senior brother Ling. An inner disciple said, Lin Tian has already left. Ling Yi's face immediately changed. It was gloomy, ashen, and even a little purple. He deliberately delayed for a few hours to come here. When he saw that Lin Tian was not here, his face was gloomy. He thought that Lin Tian had not arrived yet, which made him very angry. A mere member of the core disciples actually came later than him, the leader. But then, the real result made him even angrier. Lin Tian did not come late, but directly left. He actually did not wait for him, the leader, and left. Arrogant. Roaring angrily, Ling Yi shook his sword and instantly flew away at an extremely fast speed. The 8 disciples looked at each other, and each used the Imperial armament technique to follow. At this time, in another place, the 100 Refinements Workshop. The 100 Refinements Workshop was filled with pavilions and surrounded by tall mountains. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the school was very dense. A furious roar rang out in the mountains, and the murderous aura was terrifying. Several days later, Bai Yunfei returned to the 100 Refinements Workshop just in time for Mu Hong to come out of his closed-door meditation. Bai Yunfei told him about Mu Haoguang's death. His only grandson's death had caused Mu Hong's eyes to go red. His elemental energy had destroyed everything within a 15-meter radius, and the terrifying murderous aura had caused many people to tremble in fear. A few days ago, your disciple went to the Burning Sun sect to ask for the murderer, but I returned without success. Bai Yunfei spoke carefully. But Master, your disciple discovered something else. The one who killed Haoguang, Lin Tian, seems to have a technique similar to the 100 refinements. He can control even more weapons than your disciple, 15 of them. Bai Yunfei explained the battle in detail. What? Mu Hong's murderous aura had been thick at first, but when he heard Bai Yunfei's words, his face paled. The aura Mu Hong was exuding right now was even more frightening than before. Bai Yunfei began to describe the scene of Lin Tian using the 15 Saint armament swords to Bai Yunfei. Is what you say true? Mu Hong stared at Bai Yunfei. Absolutely true. Your disciple wouldn't dare lie to you, Master. The other juniors saw it as well. Bai Yunfei hurriedly replied. Mu Hong clenched his fists tightly, his eyes filled with murderous intent and shock. Staring at Bai Yunfei, Mu Hong spoke again. Is there anyone in the Burning Sun sect who wants Lin Tian dead? Bai Yunfei was confused, but he didn't dare hesitate. There is. Attendants was Shang and inner disciple Chu Xian. Mu Hong nodded and disappeared in a flash. Bai Yunfei was surprised to see Mu Hong disappear. What's going on? Master is more concerned about Lin Tian using the 100 refinements than his own grandson being killed. This, Bai Yunfei didn't understand. The 100 Refinements was important to the Burning Sun sect, but shouldn't his grandson be more important? At this time, Mu Hong arrived at a magnificent hall in the back mountains of the 100 Refinements workshop. There were 5 other people in the hall, all of them exuding an extremely powerful aura. One of them was an elder whose entire body was incomparably sharp, like an unsheathed celestial sword. It was extremely frightening. Mu Hong, what's the matter? Why did you invite the esteemed elder? One of them asked. This middle-aged man was the current owner of the 100 Refinements workshop. It's very important. Mu Hong spoke in a low voice. Mu Hong immediately described what Bai Yunfei had seen in detail. Everyone's expression changed at once. The 100 Refinement secret technique is merely an incomplete scroll that the old ancestor accidentally found back then. At least 90% of it is missing. It is incomplete. In the history of the 100 Refinements workshop, only the elders, the sect master, and the grand elders are qualified to know about this. The 100 Refinements workshop's grand elder said, "We can be certain that the 100 Refinements secret technique in the sect has never been leaked. In that case, it is very likely that the young man called Lin Tian possesses the complete secret technique." At this time, this person's eyes became even more oppressive, and his aura became even more terrifying. The owner of the 100 Refinements workshop said in a low voice, "This Lin Tian must be captured. Since he possesses a technique of that level and defeated Yunfei, then those old fogies of the Burning Sun sect will very likely do everything in their power to protect him. If we want to capture him, then we'll need to plan this matter thoroughly," an elder said. According to Yunfei, there are 2 people in the Burning Sun sect who want Lin Tian dead. Perhaps we can use them, Mu Hong said. Very good, Mu Hong. Have Yunfei communicate with those 2 people from the Burning Sun sect and have them help our 100 Refinements workshop. No matter what benefits they promise, it's fine. If this matter succeeds, I will let Yunfei be the next owner of the 100 Refinements workshop. The esteemed elder of the 100 Refinements workshop said, if they could find the complete version of the 100 Refinements workshop, it would be 100 times stronger in a short period of time. Understood. Mu Hong nodded. The eyes of the 6 airborne realm beings in the hall glittered with brilliance. Time passed very quickly. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Chapter 244. Reading on mobile phone. Towering pavilions stood in the valley. From afar, it looked like a celestial court. This feeling was similar to when Lin Tian saw the Burning Sun sect for the first time. Please search product #book net to see the most complete. Fortunately, Lin Tian had already seen the Burning Sun sect, so he was not too surprised by the scene in front of him. Valley of the Harp, here we are, he said to himself. This place was still some distance away from the Valley of the Harp. Lin Tian jumped down from the Soul Sword and walked forward. This place was already close to the Valley of the Harp. Naturally, he would not continue to use the Imperial equipment technique. This would seem disrespectful to the Valley of the Harp. His steps were gentle. Soon, he was close to the Valley of the Harp. At this moment, in the distant sky, a beam of light fell, and a figure stood in front of him. This figure was Ling Yi. Lin Tian, you are too presumptuous, Ling Yi said coldly. He was the leader this time, but Lin Tian did not wait for him and went ahead first. This made him very angry. As the person in charge this time, I now revoke your right to visit the Valley of the Harp. Immediately go back to the Burning Sun sect. Who cares about you, idiot? Lin Tian said indifferently. Ignoring Ling Yi, who was blocking in front of him, he walked toward the Valley of the Harp. Go back, Ling Yi said. A good dog does not block the way. Go aside. Lin Tianji immediately sent a slap over. Lin Tian felt that he should be more domineering towards such a self-righteous and arrogant person. This slap was a little fierce, and it caused the air to buzz. This Ling Yi had made the 9 of them wait from morning to afternoon, and still did not appear. Now, he was asking him to go back and revoke his right to enter the Valley of the Harp. Did he really think that he was the sect leader of the Burning Sun sect? He did not have a good temper towards this Ling Yi. Ling Yi's eyes were cold as he raised his hand to meet the attack. The two palms collided, and it could be said that they were evenly matched. Neither of them had lost. At this time, outside the Valley of the Harp, the three female disciples who were guarding the entrance noticed that something was amiss. Immediately, one of them rushed over. "Who are you? You dare to fight outside of my Valley of the Harp? Quickly stop!" Seeing the disciples of the Valley of the Harp appear, Ling Yi frowned and could not help but stop. "I am Pa." A huge slap landed on Ling Ye's face, sending him flying. Lin Tian withdrew his right hand and looked at the three female disciples of the Valley of the Harp. He smiled and said, "I am an inner disciple of the Burning Sun sect. This time, I have come to your esteemed sect under the orders of the sect master to exchange my experience in cultivation and battle with my senior and junior sisters." In the Dragon Spirit Valley, he had taken the initiative to stop once. At that time, Ling Yi continued to attack him. If he had not reacted quickly, he would have been injured. At this time, he was just imitating Ling Yi. "You are a disciple of the Burning Sun sect?" The three female disciples were shocked. They looked at Ling Yi, who had fallen to the side. "Then he is? I don't know him." Lin Tian smiled. "Lin Tian!" An angry roar sounded. Ling Ye's face was distorted. He was a core disciple of the Burning Sun sect. This time, he led 9 inner disciples of the Burning Sun sect to the Valley of the Harp. Now Lin Tian was lying through his teeth. In front of the 3 female disciples of the Valley of the Harp, he said that he did not know him. This was simply a slap to his face. With a clang, an ear-piercing sword sound rang out. Ling Yi pulled out his sword and directly slashed at Lin Tian. Lin Tiantin smiled. He spread out the yin-yang scepter and retreated. "Stop! Where did you come from? Don't you dare mess around outside my Valley of the Harp." Seeing Ling Yi attack again, the female disciples were a little angry. Ling Yi reacted. After all, this was outside the Valley of the Harp. Moreover, the female disciples of the Valley of the Harp had already stood up. If he attacked again, it would be too disrespectful to the Valley of the Harp. Staring at Lin Tian, his face was gloomy. He fiercely gritted his teeth. Then, he put away his sword and took out a letter. "I am Ling Yi of the Burning Sun sect." As he spoke, Ling Yi handed the letter to the leader of the 3 female disciples. The female disciple suspiciously took the letter. After glancing at it, her face suddenly changed slightly. "A core disciple of the Burning Sun sect? Sorry." After reading the letter, the 3 female disciples of the Valley of the Harp's attitude towards Ling Yi suddenly improved. One of them stared at Lin Tian and said somewhat angrily, "Didn't you say that you don't know him? Some people are too annoying. I don't want to know them, so I don't know them." Lin Tian smiled. The female disciple suddenly felt like she had been deceived. She snorted at Lin Tian. Lin Tian laughed and didn't care. At this moment, in the distance, 8 figures stepped on long swords and quickly approached. "They are?" the female disciple asked. Lin Tian smiled and said, "I know them. They are all disciples of the Burning Sun sect who came to visit the Valley of the Harp this time." Hearing this, Ling Ye's expression suddenly became gloomy. This Lin Tian was clearly humiliating him. The 3 female disciples of the Valley of the Harp obviously also noticed this and couldn't help but look at each other. "Senior brother Ling, is that so?" the female disciple in the lead asked. "Yes," Ling Yi said. When he said this word, Ling Yi stared at Lin Tian with killing intent intertwined. Lin Tiantan smiled indifferently and tilted his head to look at the Valley of the Harp. "Senior brother Ling Yi, my name is Lu Jie. I'm the person in charge of receiving you this time. The people of the Burning Sun sect should all be here, right? Please enter the valley." The leader of the 3 female disciples said. In addition, this time, people from the 7 Mysteries Pavilion also came to visit the valley. The leader is a core disciple of the 7 Mysteries Pavilion, Senior Brother Di Wenhong. He is the disciple of the 7 Mysteries Pavilion's elder Yi Jingshan. He also just arrived about 15 minutes ago. People from the 7 Mysteries Pavilion also came? Ling Yi said in surprise. "Yes, Senior Brother Ling, please enter," Lu Jie said. Hearing Lu Jie's words, Lin Tian's eyes narrowed. People from the Seven Mysteries Pavilion also came, and it was Yi Zhengshang's disciple. Thinking about what happened a few months ago in the Imperial City, he smiled coldly. At that time, that old bastard Yi Zhengshang wanted to kill him. At that time, if it wasn't for an old drunkard appearing to protect him, he would have died long ago. Thinking about Yi Zhengshang, he couldn't help but coldly snort in his heart. Following the crowd, Lin Tian crossed the outer gate of the Valley of the Harp and quickly entered the valley. As its name suggested, the Valley of the Harp was located in a huge valley. As soon as Lin Tian entered, he immediately felt a rich spirit qi fluctuation. This spirit qi fluctuation was much stronger than that of the Burning Sun sect, and the air was filled with a fragrance. It should be, because they are all female disciples. Lin Tian thought. Following the female disciples, the group quickly arrived at the inner part of the Valley of the Harp. In front of them was a slightly spacious area. Similarly, 10 youths were standing together. The leader was extremely handsome and had a faint smile on his face. He was talking with several female disciples of the Valley of the Harp who were in charge of receiving them. Lu Jie led Lin Tianyi and the others and quickly arrived in front of the 10 youths. Senior brother Di Wenhong. This is senior brother Ling Yi from the Burning Sun sect. He is the leader of the Burning Sun sect this time, Lu Jie said, and then introduced Di Wenhong to Ling Yi. Di Wenhong tilted his head. After seeing Ling Yi, he smiled and walked over. Senior brother Ling Yi, nice to meet you. Di Wenhong had a faint smile on his face, giving people a very bright and scholarly feeling. Hello, senior brother Di. This time, it is an honor to be able to exchange cultivation experiences with fellow Taoists of the Valley of the Harp and the Burning Sun sect. Di Wenhong smiled. The other disciples of the Burning Sun sect and the 9 disciples of the Seven Mysteries Pavilion also greeted each other with smiles on their faces. Lin Tian stood in the crowd. He did not care about the people of the Seven Mysteries Pavilion. Instead, he looked around the Valley of the Harp. Ji Yu was cultivating in the Valley of the Harp. For him, the only meaningful thing to do in the Valley of the Harp was to see Ji Yu. Apart from that, he did not care about anything else. He had no interest in the so-called exchange of cultivation experiences. At this time, a few female voices sounded from not far away. They sounded very familiar to Lin Tian's ears. Senior Sister Su, will he really come? Of course he will. I have already seen the name list of the Burning Sun sect's disciples. Do you think I will lie to you? Hee, junior sister is too eager to see him. Oh, let's go. Looking at the time, he should be here soon. Lin Tian looked towards the direction of the voices. About 10 feet away, behind a flower forest, 4 women walked out from a corner. One of them was Ji Yu. At this time, there were 3 other women beside Ji Yu. Lin Tian was very familiar with these 3 people. They were Su Qing, Shi Ku, and Ji Yu, whom he had met in the ancient tomb. Ji Yu saw Lin Tian from afar and immediately revealed a happy expression. Junior sister? Lu Jie was a little surprised. Why did you come out? Lu Jie was the #1 expert in the Valley of the Harp's outer court. Naturally, she recognized Ji Yu and was very clear about Ji Yu's identity. As far as she knew, this new junior sister rarely appeared like this. She was basically cultivating with the Valley of the Harp's Valley Master. In this place, when the female disciples of the Valley of the Harp saw Ji Yu, they all had smiles on their faces. Obviously, they all liked Ji Yu. Hello, senior sister Lu. I came out to look for an important friend. Ji Yu chuckled. Important friend? Lu Jie was even more puzzled. Lin Tian looked at Ji Yu from afar and smiled. Then, she walked towards Ji Yu. At this time, many people from the 7 Profound Pavilion and the Burning Sun sect were staring at Ji Yu. Their expressions changed. Although the female disciples of the Valley of the Harp were all extraordinarily beautiful, they were still lacking compared to Ji Yu. Simply put, Ji Yu was the kind of woman who would instantly attract people's attention in a crowd. Di Wenhong's eyes flashed. He smiled and greeted her. Junior sister Lu, this is? As a core disciple of the 7 Profound Pavilion, Di Wenhong had seen many extraordinarily beautiful women. However, among the women he had seen, none could compare to Ji Yu. This caused his heart to heat up. Lu Jie smiled and said, "This is the Valley Master's direct disciple, junior sister Ji Yu." Di Wenhong's eyes flashed with surprise, but he quickly recovered. A gentle and elegant smile appeared on his face as he approached Ji Yu. "Junior sister Ji, hello. I am Di Wenhong, and I am..." Chapter 245. Reading on the phone, Lin Tian was very clear about what Di Wenhong was planning, so he was very unhappy. He moved in front of Ji Yu and coldly stared at Di Wenhong. "What do you mean?" Di Wenhong frowned. On the other side, Ling Ye's face sank. "Lin Tian, you're too impudent. Come back." Lin Tian didn't even look at Ling Yi. He only stared at Di Wenhong and said, in short, "Don't go near her." Lu Jie was a little surprised. Although she knew that Ji Yu was very outstanding, she didn't expect that the moment she appeared, she would cause such a dispute between the two great sections. This made Lu Jie feel helpless, especially that Lin Tian. He was really overbearing and strange. He made it seem like he had some kind of relationship with Ji Yu. He actually told others not to go near her. Lu Jie really didn't like this kind of frivolous action. However, even if she didn't like it, Lu Jie was still the #1 outer disciple of the Valley of the Harp. She didn't show it on her face. She smiled and said, "Two senior brothers, our junior sister still has some important matters to attend to. Could you please stop for a while and have a chat later?" Di Wenhong frowned, but immediately returned to normal. He smiled and said, "Since junior sister Ji Yu has matters to attend to, I naturally wouldn't dare to disturb you." Di Wenhong indifferently glanced at Lin Tian and took a step back. Lu Jie smiled and nodded. She looked at Lin Tian again. "This senior brother, can I ask you to..." Lu Jie didn't finish her sentence, but her meaning was very clear. She wanted Lin Tian to leave Ji Yu. "That, senior sister Lu?" Ji Yu looked at Lin Tianyi and then at Lu Jie. Lu Jie comforted her with a smile. "Junior sister, don't worry. This senior brother only wants to know you because you're too outstanding. He won't block your path, right?" Lu Jie's face was still smiling. She looked at Lin Tian again. Her meaning couldn't be more obvious. She wanted Lin Tian to immediately leave Ji Yu's side. Di Wenhong said indifferently, "Your Excellency, why haven't you left yet? Don't be so tactless." "Lin Tian, come back," Ling Yi berated. At this time, seeing that Lin Tian did not move, some of the other female disciples in the Valley of the Harp also showed displeasure. Ji Yu and Su Qing stood behind Ji Yu, covering their mouths as they snickered. They looked like they were having a hard time holding back their laughter. Senior sister." Ji Yu tugged at the corner of Lin Tian's clothes. He looked at Lu Jie in embarrassment and whispered, "The person I'm looking for is him." Instantly, except for Ji Yu, Lin Tian, and the others, everyone was stunned. "What?" Lu Jie gaped and pointed at Lin Tiandao. "You're looking for him?" Ji Yu was a little embarrassed and nodded. Lu Jie. Staring at Lin Tian, Lu Jie suddenly blushed. She was still thinking that Lin Tian's actions were a little frivolous, as if he knew Ji Yu. She did not expect that they really knew each other. Ji Yu actually came out from the Valley Master's place to look for Lin Tian. This was simply... She felt her face heat up. The other female disciples around them also widened their eyes and stared at Lin Tian in disbelief. The most outstanding woman in their sect, the direct disciple of the Valley Master, specially came out from her cultivation just to look for this man in front of them. Ji Yu and the others finally laughed out loud, tears almost flowing out of their eyes. Lu Jie swept a glance at Ji Yu and the others and was instantly annoyed. She said angrily, "You three brats, see how I'll deal with you later." Lu Jie was not stupid. Looking at Ji Yu and the others' reactions, she immediately knew that they knew everything. However, they did not say anything and just watched her embarrass herself. "Don't, senior sister. We didn't have a chance to speak." That's right, that's right." The three women quickly begged for mercy. At this time, Di Wenhong's complexion was extremely ugly. Thinking back to how he had ridiculed Lin Tian and said, as a person, "Don't be too tactless," his complexion became even uglier, as if he had eaten a fly. Immediately, He stared at Lin Tian with an extremely cold expression, his fists involuntarily clenched. Lin Tian. The 8 inner disciples of the Burning Sun sect were astonished. They did not expect that Lin Tian actually knew the direct disciple of the Valley of the Harp's Valley Master. Moreover, their relationship seemed to be very close. These 8 people were very surprised, but Ling Ye's expression was not very good. This Lin Tian actually had a relationship with the direct disciple of the Valley of the Harp's Valley Master. For a moment, this place was very quiet. "Senior sister, I'll bring him around the valley. Is that okay?" Jiyu said to Lu Jie. Lu Jie smiled. "Of course, go ahead." As the direct disciple of the Valley of the Harp's Valley Master, Jiyu's status was much higher than an ordinary disciple like her. It was even higher than a core disciple. But even so, Jiyu was usually very respectful to them. This naturally made Lu Jie and the others like and accommodate Jiyu. Jiyu nodded, smiled at Lin Tian, and walked away. Lin Tian naturally did not care about the others and calmly followed. Di Wenhong clenched his fists even tighter, his eyes faintly intertwined with killing intent. The other female disciples of the Valley of the Harp looked at each other in dismay. Lu Jie coughed twice, still wearing a smile on her face. She looked at Ling Yi, Di Wenhong, and the others and said, "I'm really sorry about this small episode. Senior brothers of the Burning Sun sect and the 7 Profound Pavilion, we have already prepared a place for you to stay. Please take a rest. Lu Jie will bring you around for a walk. The cultivation meeting will begin tomorrow." The environment of the Valley of the Harp could be said to be excellent. Birds chirped and flowers bloomed everywhere, giving people a very comfortable feeling. Lin Tian and Jiyu walked side by side on a small path in the valley, causing many female disciples along the way to be surprised. "Right. Thank you for asking Senior Sister Su Qing to bring me something. When they came back, they said they saw you and couldn't help but praise you for being very strong. Now that I've seen you, you're even stronger than they said. You were actually able to block that Di Wenhong." Jiyu chuckled, blinked, and said, "What's your cultivation level now?" "Knowledge C 3rd layer." Lin Tian said with a smile. "So fast. In the past, I was much stronger than you. I was several small stages higher than you. Now, you've surpassed me." Jiyu said in surprise. "Being stronger than you is natural. Otherwise, how could I protect you?" Lin Tian on Dao said. Jiyu made a sound of surprise. He looked at Lin Tian from head to toe, covered his mouth, and laughed. "You're getting better and better at making girls happy." Lin Tian suddenly felt a little embarrassed. "I'm just telling the truth." Jiyu chuckled and continued to lead Lin Tian forward. The environment of this place was much better. It was much more elegant and quiet, and the fragrance in the air was much stronger. Lin Tian glanced around and saw that there were all kinds of flowers and plants. They were all species that could not be seen in the mortal world. "Right? Are you used to this place?" Lin Tian asked Jiyu. "It's pretty good. It's just that there are some fights. I don't like it too much," Jiyu said. Lin Tian was stunned. Thinking about it, Jiyu really did not like to fight with others. It was also because of this that when he was in the Imperial City, the elders of the Northern Flame Imperial Courtyard invited Jiyu to cultivate in the Northern Flame Imperial Courtyard several times, but they were all rejected. "It's normal for sects to have fights," Lin Tian comforted. "That's true." Jiyu smiled. "Right? It seems that you have reached the peak of the 1st layer of the knowledge sea," Lin Tian on Dao said. With a wave of his right hand, a small stone ring appeared in his hand. "There are 24th level divine, refining runes in here. It can increase the cultivation speed of the knowledge sea by about 3 times. You can use it now." Jiyu was surprised. "You can already inscribe 4th level runes?" Lin Tian smiled. "I reached the 4th level when I was in the Imperial City. It's just that I didn't inscribe 4th level runes." Jiyu said, "Oh," and then happily received it. No matter what, this was a gift from Lin Tian, and it was a very valuable thing. She received it and put it away. As the direct disciple of the Valley of the Harp Valley Master, she naturally had something like a stone ring. Moreover, there were more than 200 cubic meters inside. They had not seen each other for a long time. The two walked side by side and had a lot to talk about. The atmosphere was very good, and there was laughter from time to time. At this time, a few women walked over from a corner not far away. The person in the lead had phoenix eyes and was about 20 years old. Her beauty was also very outstanding. Soon, the group of people approached. Senior sister Shunyin, Jiyu said. Shunyin stopped and glanced at Jiyu. Her gaze landed on Lin Tian, and a faint smile appeared on her face. Junior sister Ji, as the direct disciple of the Valley Master, I hope you can pay attention to your image. Shunyin was a core disciple of the Zither Valley. Her cultivation was at the 5th level of the Sea of Consciousness realm, and she was the disciple of an elder. Senior sister, I don't understand what you mean. Jiyu said. Don't you know what I mean? You casually brought a man to Shinrue Garden. If other junior sisters saw this, what would they think? Shunyin said, although you are the Valley Master's disciple, don't be too ostentatious. Isn't it better to find a room to do some things? If you can have fun, others won't find you an eyesore. Jiyu frowned. Senior sister, your words are a bit too much. Sorry, junior sister. Your senior sister will speak frankly if she has something to say. After all, I am also a core disciple of the Valley of the Harp. I have an obligation to protect the image of the Valley of the Harp. Therefore, I don't want you to do anything out of line and bring shame to the Valley of the Harp. Shunyin smiled faintly. Lin Tian's face suddenly sank. He suddenly remembered what Su Qing and the other two women had said to him in the ancient tomb. Although the disciples of several elders of the Valley of the Harp were strong, they had only mastered 3 levels of the White Lotus Sword mantra. However, Jiyu had comprehended 4 levels with his divine Vein Realm cultivation. Now it seemed that Shunyin, as the disciple of one of the elders of the Valley of the Harp, was obviously jealous of Jiyu's talent. So she deliberately made things difficult for him and insulted him. After a pause, Lin Tian recalled what Jiyu had said to him just now. There were many fights here, and she didn't like it. Thinking about it, this wasn't the first time something like this had happened. It should have happened several times. Lin Tian, let's go this way. Jiyu tugged on Lin Tian's clothes and walked to the other side. Obviously, he didn't want to fight with Shunyin. Shunyin snorted with a smug look in her eyes. However, in the next moment, Shunyin frowned. The others were also moved. Chapter 246. Lin Tian was very unhappy. Xunyin's words were too unpleasant to listen to. It had already risen to the level of an insult. Although Jiyu didn't like to compete with others, he couldn't just stand by and watch. He couldn't tolerate someone insulting Jiyu like this. Full text read, apologize to her. He walked in front of Shunyin and said coldly. Jiyu pulled Lin Tian and said, Lin Tian, it's fine. Let's go this way. There are some people that you can't give in to. The more you give in to her, the more she will think that you are easy to bully. Lin Tian shook his head and looked at Shunyin again. Apologize? Xunyin's face sank. Who do you think you are? In my Valley of the Harp. Do you think you are worthy of me apologizing? Lin Tian's expression was cold. He took another step forward. Don't challenge my patience. Apologize? As he stared at Shunyin, a chill spread out from his body. Shunyin was so shocked that her expression changed slightly. This chill was indeed somewhat terrifying. Behind Shunyin, a few ordinary disciples felt their hearts tremble and couldn't help but tremble. You came to my Valley of the Harp, yet you want to turn the tables? Shunyin coldly said. As she spoke, Shunyin directly attacked. Her palm reached out to grab Lin Tian. Lin Tian raised his hand and punched Xunyin's palm, causing Shunyin to retreat several steps. Senior Sister Shun, are you a disciple of the 7 Profound Pavilion or the Burning Sun sect? This is too much. What kind of place do you think our Valley of the Harp is? Several disciples angrily said. Almost all the disciples in the Valley of the Harp knew that the disciples of the 7 Profound Pavilion and the Burning Sun sect had come to visit the Valley of the Harp. At this time, a man had appeared in Shinrue Garden. Several female disciples could vaguely guess Lin Tian's origin. Lin Tian was expressionless as she stared at Shunyin. Apologize? Xun Yan's expression was slightly ugly. She glanced at Lin Tian and then looked at Ji Yu. She sneered. You usually put on an act and seem to be very noble and pure. Who would have thought that you would seduce men from other sects? In such a short time, you were able to make this man fall head over heels for you. You're really good at seducing people. Senior sister, you're older than me and entered the sect earlier than me, so I respect you. However, don't go overboard. Ji was a little angry. What's the rush? So what if I'm right? You don't have to be so angry and embarrassed at you. Xun Yin coldly laughed. However, before she could finish speaking, a flash appeared in front of her. Lin Tian was right in front of her like lightning. Yapa! With a resounding slap, Xun Yin was sent flying in the next moment. Ji Yu was slightly stunned. He didn't expect Lin Tian to slap Xun Yan's face. How dare you hit my face? Xun Yin steadied her body and suddenly screamed. How dare you? Lin Tianlong said. His figure was as fast as a startled swan. For the first time, he used the second level of the yin and yang loaf to its limit. He instantly appeared in front of Xun Yin and slapped her again. With a bang, this slap landed firmly on Xun Yan's face and sent her flying again. The more Xun Yin spoke, the more she went overboard. It really made him very angry. Beside them, several female disciples were shocked by Lin Tian's ferocious power. Xun Yin was a core disciple of the Valley of the Harp. Her cultivation base was at the fifth sky of the Sea of Consciousness. She was very powerful, but now she was at a disadvantage in front of Lin Tian 3 times in a row. The first time she was repelled, and the second and third time she was slapped. This really made their hearts palpitate. I'll kill you, Xun Yin screamed. Violent sword chi suddenly rushed up and cut a large piece of the surrounding flowers and plants into pieces. Lin Tian's face was cold and indifferent as he took a step forward. Lin Tian, be careful, Ji Yu said. Ji Yu was very clear about Lin Tian's temper. It was impossible for Lin Tian to stop at this time. She also knew that Xun Yan's strength was very strong. After all, her cultivation base was at the fifth sky of the Sea of Consciousness. Moreover, she cultivated the Valley of the Harp's strongest secret technique, the White Lotus Sword technique. If she really entered the battle, it was hard to say who would win. At this time, Xun Yin had already rushed toward Lin Tian. After being slapped twice in a row by Lin Tian, Xun Yan's eyes had turned red. She brandished her treasured sword, creating a gust of wind. The sword chi within her was as strong as a rainbow, causing Lin Tian to be slightly surprised. Although he was very displeased with Xun Yan's words and actions, he had to admit that Xun Yin, who was at the fifth sky of the Sea of Consciousness, was indeed very strong. He shook the heart-spirit sword and directly slashed out. On both sides, several female disciples of the Valley of the Harp were extremely shocked. A foreign man dared to make a move in the Valley of the Harp. He was too bold. Moreover, as the battle between Lin Tian and Xun Yin began, several women were gradually shocked by Lin Tian's strength. He was actually slightly suppressing Xun Yin and was in the upper hand. Lin Tian held the heart-spirit sword and displayed the Azure Thunder Sword technique to the extreme. Every sword slash carried a thunderous sword light. Clang! 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 The swords collided constantly. Lin Tian's sword was very fast, very accurate, and very ruthless. He gradually forced Xun Yin to retreat. In this core blossom garden, it was unknown how many precious plants and flowers were minced by the two's sword chi. At this moment, a cold snort sounded, like a heavy drum being beaten. Far away, an old woman appeared. She was like a ghost flying in the air. In a flash, she came to the sky above the battlefield. Elder Su! Someone exclaimed. Xun Yin stopped and shouted, Master! Lin Tian's face froze. He obviously felt the pressure. This old woman's momentum was really terrifying. Foreign man, how dare you be so presumptuous in the Valley of the Harp? The old woman shouted coldly. As she spoke, she actually slapped her palm toward Lin Tian. Lin Tian only felt a tangible palm force pressing toward him, sealing off all of his paths of retreat. Elder Su, stop! Ji Yu's expression changed greatly. Clang! The sound of a sword rang from afar. A light sword flew over and directly shattered the old woman's light palm strike. Silently, a beautiful woman appeared above Lin Tian's head. Her aura was even stronger than the old woman's. Masters have no right to interfere in a fight between disciples. Elder Su, it's better for you to step aside. Seeing the person, several female disciples were shocked. They hurriedly bowed toward the sky. Valley Master. Ji was pleasantly surprised and immediately felt relieved. Lin Tian raised his head. He was a little surprised. He didn't expect the beautiful woman to come. You Wushuang, you better look carefully. Is this man a disciple of the Valley of the Harp? The old woman looked at the beautiful woman and coldly said, When did the Valley of the Harp have a male disciple? His master is Li Changfeng. Yu Wushuang said lightly. Li Changfeng? He's Li Changfeng's disciple? The old woman's expression changed. Impossible. I've never heard of Li Changfeng accepting a disciple. Yes or no? You can ask the Burning Sun sect master. Yu Wushuang stared indifferently at the old woman. The Valley of the Harp has received great kindness from Li Changfeng. The previous Valley of the Harp master, who is now the Grand Elder, said that if Li Changfeng has a descendant or disciple, they can freely enter the Valley of the Harp and be regarded as a legitimate disciple of the Valley of the Harp. Even if he wants to learn the White Lotus Sword Code, the Valley of the Harp will pass it down without reservation. Do you want to see the Grand Elder? The old woman's face suddenly became very gloomy. At the same time, she was very shocked that Li Changfeng actually accepted a disciple. Hearing Yu Wushuang's words, Lin Tian himself was also a little surprised. What did an old drunkard do to the Valley of the Harp that made the previous Valley of the Harp Master make such a promise? You can even learn the White Lotus Sword mantra if you wanna. One must know that the White Lotus Sword Code is a secret of the Valley of the Harp. Only the Valley Master candidates are qualified to learn it. Not only Lin Tian, but Ji was also shocked. That sloppy and old drunkard is actually so powerful? Clang! At this moment, the sound of a sword whistling was extremely ear-piercing. Although Lin Tian had some doubts about what an old drunkard did to help the Valley of the Harp at this moment, he was too lazy to think so much. He raised the inner spirit sword and pointed it directly at Xin Yan. A sword light flew past Xin Yan's cheek and cut a blue stone behind Xin Yan into pieces. Apologize. Don't even think about it, Xin Yan said angrily. Is that so? Lin Tian's face was cold. I'll beat you until you apologize. As soon as he finished speaking, he shook his long sword, and the sound of the thunder sword vibrated, heading straight for Xin Yan. How dare you? The old woman was instantly enraged. Lin Tian actually dared to make a move in front of her. She raised her hand and was about to slap Lin Tian. With a clang, a sword aura flew past and stopped the old woman. Elder Su, have you forgotten what I said? When disciples fight, there is no right for the master to step in. Yu Wushuang said. The old woman's face was cold. Yu Wushuang, you are using external forces to bully Xin Yan. He is Li Changfeng's disciple, which means he is a disciple of the Valley of the Harp. If you really want to calculate, he is not considered an external force. What's wrong with hitting your disciple? Yu Wushuang's face was slightly colder. Your disciple has bullied Ji Yu many times. Do you think I don't know? When Xin Yan was bullying Ji Yu, I, as the master, did not step in. So now, you better stay aside obediently. Otherwise, don't blame me for not giving you face. You! The old woman's face suddenly turned green. Yu Wushuang was actually using her identity as the Valley Master to suppress her. Clang! The sword whistled continuously. Lin Tian's sword gradually emitted the power of fire, and the Thunder Flame sword radiance was fully displayed. After the Thunder Flame sword radiance was displayed, Lin Tian's aura suddenly increased by several times. His entire person was like an unsheathed heavenly sword, forcing Xin Yan, who was at the 5th celestial level of consciousness, to retreat again and again. Behind him, Ji Yu stared at Lin Tian, looking a little nervous. Even if I didn't see the beginning, I can tell that you are being bullied by Shan Yan again. Yu Wushuang stood in the air, her lips moving slightly. She condensed her chi into a line and directly transmitted it into Ji-Yu's ears. Ji-Yu, sometimes it is a good thing that you don't like to fight. However, you're also a cultivator. When it is time to unsheathe your sword, you should unsheathe it. Ji-Yu looked up at the sky and then looked forward. Looking at Lin Tian, her eyes became a little flickering. The sword whistled continuously. Lin Tian displayed the thunder flame sword radiance. His sword momentum was like a rainbow, like a sword storm. Damn it! Shun Yin screamed. With a boom, a terrifying sword momentum rushed out of Shun Yan's body. The third sword of the White Lotus Sword Codex. A female disciple exclaimed. Lin Tian frowned. He naturally felt the terror of this sword. However, he did not care about this level. Suddenly, a hand grabbed the corner of his clothes, and Ji-Yu flashed in front of him. I will do it myself, Ji-Yu said. As soon as she finished speaking, an even stronger sword will rushed out. Dense flower petals rushed out of Ji-Yu's body, instantly condensing into a lotus flower sword aura in front of her. Bright light spread out in all directions, and the tyrannical sword momentum instantly suppressed Shun Yan's aura. This is... The old woman's expression changed. Impossible. The fifth level of the White Lotus Sword Codex, the Heart Lotus Sword. Even Yu Wushuang was shocked. She muttered to herself, this child, at this age, with this level of cultivation, has comprehended the White Lotus Sword Codex to this extent? This level of comprehension. End of chapter. Chapter 247. The dazzling lotus sword aura hovered in front of Ji-Yu. A majestic sword aura surged out from the center, instantly shattering Shun Yan's third attack. A few strands of hair fell down Shun Yan's face. Full text to read. Staring at Ji-Yu in front of him, Lin Tian was also shocked. Although Ji-Yu's cultivation was not as strong as Shun Yan's, the sword aura that Ji-Yu exuded was not something that Shun Yan could compare to. The difference between the two was too great. This terrifying sword aura actually erased the difference in cultivation between the two. Shun Yan was stunned at first, then she roared, Ji-Yu, you cut off my hair. With a boom, Shun Yan's true energy went berserk. Her eyes were blood red as she glared at Ji-Yu and Lin Tian. Stop! The old woman came to Shun Yan's side and suppressed her aura. But master, I told you to stop. The old woman's face darkened. Shun Yan was furious, and there was hatred in her eyes. However, when she saw the old woman's stern expression, she could only stop. The old woman glanced at Ji-Yu, then looked at Yu Wushuang in the air. Valley Master, you have indeed accepted a good disciple. Congratulations. The old woman's voice was neither yin nor yang. Although she was congratulating him, her words were mixed with a gloomy taste, making people feel uncomfortable no matter how they heard it. I know how outstanding my disciple is. There's no need for you to tell me. Yu Wushuang said indifferently. The old woman snorted, pulled Shun Yan, and turned to leave. Clang! The sound of a sword rang out. The sword ray landed in front of the old woman and shattered a piece of limestone. Lin Tian stepped forward and pointed his sword at Shun Yan. Apologize before you leave. The old woman tilted her head, and her gaze was sinister. Young man, so what if you're Li Chongfeng's disciple? Don't be too arrogant. This isn't your Burning Sun sect, but the Valley of the Harp. You better behave yourself in someone else's sect. Ji tugged at Lin Tian and whispered, Lin Tian, forget it. After all, I did cut off a strand of her hair. Some things can't be counted. Lin Tian shook his head and pointed the tip of his sword at Shun Yan. If you want to leave here, apologize first. You. Shun Yan glared at Lin Tian, her eyes filled with killing intent. The old woman's face turned cold. Do you really think that your master's name will allow you to do whatever you want in the Valley of the Harp? Why I'm standing here has nothing to do with my master. As for acting recklessly, don't put a hat on me. When it comes to acting recklessly, isn't that useless disciple of yours the one who's acting recklessly? In terms of status, Ji seems to be slightly higher than her. Does she have the right to speak ill of her time and time again? Lin Tian, Lung said coldly. The old woman's face was gloomy. That's my Valley of the Harps business. You have no right to interfere. Lin Tianlong smiled and looked at Yu Wushuang in the sky. Will you help me block that old woman? Of course, Yu Wushuang said lightly. As the Valley Master, it was not convenient for her to directly teach Shun Yin a lesson. Otherwise, she would be accused of favoring her disciple and using her status as the Valley Master to oppress others. This always made her feel uncomfortable. Now that Lin Tian had come, it was clear that he wanted to stand up for Ji Yu and force Xin Yin to apologize. She was very happy to see this scene. After getting Yu Wushuang's affirmative answer, Lin Tian's long sword shook and directly pressed down on Xin Yin. Presumptuous! The old woman was furious. With a clang, a wisp of sword chi flew out and directly forced the old woman to retreat. Elder Su, please watch quietly, Yu Wushuang said indifferently. The old woman's face was extremely gloomy. With Yu Wushuang blocking her, there was no way she could break through. Clang! The sword clanged, and Lin Tian's expression was indifferent. He used the yin and yang hua to the limit. His whole body seemed to have turned into a phantom, slashing at Xin Yin from all directions in an instant. I'll kill you! Xin Yin was furious and used the White Lotus Sword manual again. The sword will of the third level was shockingly strong. Lin Tianlong snorted and pushed the Thunderfire sword to the limit. An extremely violent aura rushed out of his body, and the power of thunder and fire covered his entire body. Although the White Lotus Sword manual was a terrifying airborne realm martial art, Xin Yin had only comprehended the third level after all. It was not as strong as the complete Thunderfire sword. Cut! Lin Tian held the sword with both hands and used all his combat power, slashing down fiercely. The sword light of the two collided and shattered a lot of flowers and plants around. After a while, with a bang, a figure was sent flying. It was Xin Yin. Lin Tian shook a little, but he quickly stabilized. Staring at Xin Yin, his expression was indifferent. He used the yin and yang hua and instantly crossed a distance of 30 meters, directly coming in front of Xin Yin. You don't move, Lin Tianlong said. At this time, his sword was placed horizontally next to Xin Yin's cheek, and the light of the fire burned brightly. Seeing this scene, everyone's expression changed. They did not expect Lin Tian to end the battle so quickly, which really shocked these people. After all, Xin Yin was at the 5th level of the Sea of Consciousness. Lin Tian was the only one who knew what was going on. That was because he used all his strength to slash with the sword just now, which was why he was able to defeat Xin Yin in an instant. Now apologize. Lin Tianlong stared at Xin Yin coldly. Don't even think about it. Xin Yin was furious and slashed at Lin Tian with the sword. Lin Tian raised his leg and kicked the treasure sword in Xin Yin's hand away at such a short distance. After it fell to the ground, it made a crisp metallic sound. He held the inner spirit sword, and the flames on the sword became even hotter. He said coldly, "You'd better apologize immediately. Otherwise, my sword may leave a few marks on your face." At this time, the inner spirit sword had been burned red by the flames, like a hot soldering iron. Xin Yin trembled. At this time, if Lin Tian's sword really touched her face, she would be disfigured. Apologize, and I'll give you 3 breaths of time, Lin Tianlong said. Xin Yin was shocked and angry. On the other side, the old woman's face was also gloomy, and her eyes were filled with killing intent. Evil creature, stop. You too. Yu Wushuang crossed and stood in front of the old woman. Yu Wushuang, the old woman shouted. Yu Wushuang's face darkened. So you get this straight. I'm the Valley Master. The old woman's name was Suyu. When she heard Yu Wushuang's words, her face became even gloomier. Lin Tian opened his mouth again at this time, without any scruples. 3. Hearing the word 3, Suyu clenched her fists. Xin Yin looked sideways at the sword beside her cheek and trembled. 2. Xin Yan's body trembled even more, and her face became pale. Ji Yu couldn't bear it and said, Lin Tian, forget it, it's enough. 1. Lin Tian was expressionless. At this moment, his face became a little cold. The inner spirit's sword shook again, and the flames burned fiercely. Shunyan screamed, trembling and crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. There was no woman who didn't care about her face, especially Shunyan, who was quite beautiful. If her face was ruined, it would really make her life worse than death. At this last moment, she couldn't resist the fear. After spitting out these words, Shunyan spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted. With a swoosh, Suyu flashed over and supported Shunyan. Staring at Lin Tian, Suyu's old face was full of coldness, and the killing intent in her eyes was not concealed at all. Li Chongfeng's disciple, you're not bad. This old woman will remember you. I'm not happy at all to be remembered by an old monster. Lin Tiandao. This old woman had the intention to kill him, so he naturally wouldn't be nice to her. Suyu stared coldly at Lin Tianyi and left with Shunyan. Not far away, the few female disciples who were originally with Shun Yan were shocked. They were really shocked by Lin Tian. He was too strong, too domineering. You guys go back first, Yu Wushuang said. The few female disciples hurriedly bowed and quickly left. In an instant, only Yu Wushuang, Jiyu, and Lin Tian were left. Not bad. Yu Wushuang stared at Lin Tian, her eyes full of admiration. Lin Tiandao said, it's all thanks to Senior's help. However, it's not good to ruin a girl's face. Yu Wushuang said, that depends on the other party's face. Lin Tiandao said, moreover, I was just threatening her. I'm not so cruel as to really ruin her face. Yu Wushuang nodded and came to Jiyu's side. Little Yu, when did you comprehend the fifth layer? Yu Wushuang liked this disciple of hers very much. She was only 16 years old, and her sea of consciousness was at the first layer. At this stage, she had comprehended the fifth layer of the White Lotus Sword technique. It was really given her face. It should be known that the few core disciples were all at the fifth layer of the sea of consciousness. They were around 20 years old, but they had only comprehended the third layer. 2 days ago, Jiyu said. Yu Wushuang smiled even more happily. Even with her personality, she couldn't help but praise Jiyu. Okay, I won't disturb you, Yu Wushuang said, nodded to Lin Tian, and left. In Shinrui Garden, only Lin Tian and Jiyu were left. Just now, thank you. I'm quite happy. Jiyu smiled. Lin Tian smiled and knocked Jiyu's forehead, saying, what are you thanking me for? You came to Beast Demon Ridge alone to protect me. Now that I'm stronger than you, of course I have to protect you. If someone wants to bully you in front of me, I won't allow it. You really know how to coax people. Jiyu snickered and said, however, she only took advantage of me verbally. It's nothing. Lin Tian shook her head. You can't let others take advantage of you verbally. What's more, it's already beyond a certain extent. Xinyan's words were already considered a humiliation. The two chatted in Shinrui Garden for a long time. When the sky was dark, Jiyu sent Lin Tian to a residential area. It was the temporary residence arranged by the Valley of the Harp for the Burning Sun sect disciples. Jiyu had been in the Valley of the Harp for a long time, so he was naturally very familiar with the Valley of the Harp. After bringing Lin Tian over, he waved goodbye and walked towards his residence. Lin Tian watched as Jiyu left, and then entered the room arranged by the Valley of the Harp. The room in the Valley of the Harp was a little plain, but it was much better than his residence in the Burning Sun sect. At least the room was spacious, and the furnishings were not bad. It was not like the rooms in the Burning Sun sect, where there were only simple beds, tables, and chairs. After all, it's a female sect, Lin Tian thought to himself. Closing the door, Lin Tian sat on the bed and silently operated the 4 extreme meridians to cultivate. Very quickly, the night passed. On this day, Lu Jie came early and invited the disciples of the 7 Profound Pavilion and the Burning Sun sect to the martial arts practice field in the Valley of the Harp. The disciples of the 3 great sects would exchange their experiences in cultivation and battle. It was set for this day. Chapter 248. Reading on a mobile phone. The training field in the Valley of the Harp wasn't small. It was about the same size as the burning sun sect, but the environment was better. There were many old vines growing at the edge of the training field, and there was a faint fragrance in the air. Everyone, please search for the most complete information. When Lin Tian arrived at the training field with Lu Jie and the others, the members of the Valley of the Harp were already waiting there. He immediately saw a familiar face. It was Shun Yin. Shun Yin naturally saw Lin Tian as well. She clenched her fists, and her eyes were filled with hatred. Lin Tian glanced at Shun Yin from the corner of his eyes, but he didn't care. Lin Tian saw a few familiar figures beside Shun Yin. They were the female disciples of the Valley of the Harp that he saw in Shinrui Garden yesterday. This made him slightly surprised. He didn't know that the Valley of the Harp had designated Shun Yin as the representative for this cultivation exchange. Yesterday, Shun Yin had brought a few disciples of the Valley of the Harp to greet the people of the Seven Mysteries Pavilion and the Burning Sun sect. However, they didn't expect something to happen. "Everyone this way, please," Lu Jie said, and immediately retreated. The Seven Mysteries Pavilion was led by Di Wenhong. The Burning Sun sect was led by Ling Yi, and the Valley of the Harp was led by Xin Yin. A group of people surrounded the main stage in the center of the training field in the Valley of the Harp. There were some benches placed beside the main stage for people to rest. After the cultivation exchange began, the disciples of the three sects began to exchange their daily cultivation experiences. At this time, not far from the training field, there were many disciples of the Valley of the Harp. They were all staring at the center of the field, and many of them were even listening attentively. After all, those who were able to participate in this cultivation exchange were all very outstanding. Listening to these people discuss their cultivation experiences was also very rewarding. At this time, some of the elders of the Valley of the Harp also came and stood in the distance. Not far away, Ji Yu and Yu Wushuang stood together, blinking their beautiful eyes as they stared at the center of the martial arts practice field. Of course, their eyes were always on Lin Tian. "It seems that he is very uninterested," Yu Wushuang said. At this moment, Lin Tian was sitting quietly in the middle of the martial arts practice field. He was resting with his eyes closed. Ji Yu chuckled. "It seems like he won't be interested in this kind of thing. After all, he is already very strong." "You're really confident in him. It's not good to praise him so openly, is it? You haven't married him yet. If I pass the Valley of the Harp to you in the future, I might have to worry about you occasionally selling our sect for him," Yu Wushuang teased. Ji Yu's face turned slightly red as he said angrily, "Master?" Yu Wushuang smiled. "I'm just kidding." On the martial arts practice field, the Seven Profound Pavilion, the Valley of the Harp, and the Burning Sun sect's outstanding disciples were having an intense discussion. From the body refinement realm to the knowledge sea, every major realm was discussed in great detail. Not only did they gain a lot from each other, but the outer disciples of the Valley of the Harp on the periphery were also greatly inspired. Lin Tian had his eyes closed, completely uninterested in the discussion between the three parties. The reason he came to the Valley of the Harp was entirely for Ji Yu, and sitting here was also to show respect to the Valley of the Harp. After all, Lu Jie was waiting outside early in the morning to greet them. He couldn't say that he wasn't interested and didn't want to go, right? That would be too rude. Time passed by minute, and soon an hour had passed. At this moment, a voice sounded out. Yesterday, the Burning Sun sect's brother Lin Tian's speed seemed to be quite fast. This one is not talented, but I would like to experience it. On the martial arts practice field, Di Wenhong had unknowingly stood there with a warm smile on his face. "Brother Lin Tian, would you like to come up on stage and give me some pointers?" Di Wenhong had wanted to get close to Ji Yu yesterday, but had been stopped by Lin Tian. This made Di Wenhong very unhappy, and when he found out that the person Ji Yu was looking for was Lin Tian, Di Wenhong became even more unhappy. Now he was standing on the main stage and asking for pointers from Lin Tian. Naturally, he wanted to make Lin Tian look bad in front of everyone. Lin Tian opened his eyes and indifferently glanced at Di Wenhong. Not interested. Although this Di Wenhong had a smile on his face, he could clearly see the trace of hostility in the depths of his eyes. Of course, this wasn't because he was afraid of Di Wenhong, but because he didn't want to give the other party any face. Who did he think he was? Hearing these words, many people in the surroundings were moved. Why did he refuse? Isn't it good to exchange pointers? Stupid. That Di Wenhong is a core disciple of the Seven Mysteries Pavilion. How could an ordinary person be his opponent? You mean that Lin Tian is afraid of fighting? Isn't this obvious? Outside the martial arts practice field, many people muttered. Shun Yin coldly stared at Lin Tian and mockingly said, "A coward who doesn't dare to fight." Lin Tian, this friend of the Seven Mysteries Pavilion, is shameless enough to ask for pointers from you. Why aren't you going up? Ling Yi said in a deep voice. Lin Tian glanced at Ling Yi. Shameless enough to ask for pointers? Your words are really good. I thought you were from the Seven Mysteries Pavilion. He didn't have a good impression of this Ling Yi and didn't want to say anything to him. Ling Yi's face darkened. As the person in charge of the Burning Sun sect this time, I order you to go up. Lin Tian was disdainful and couldn't be bothered with Ling Yi. This little guy is quite the character. He's really similar to his master back then. In the distance, Yu Wushuang faintly smiled. On the main stage, Di Wenhong's face slightly darkened, but soon, Di Wenhong narrowed his eyes. It seems that Brother Lin Tian is too embarrassed to make the first move. I'm not talented, but I really want to exchange pointers with Brother Lin. I'll return to being a lowly person. Finishing his words, Di Wenhong's figure flashed and directly rushed towards Lin Tian. True essence intertwined as Di Wenhong's palm shot towards Lin Tian. Seeing this scene, many people's faces changed. The Burning Sun sect disciples who were originally in the same position as Lin Tianyi instantly scattered in all directions, fearing that they would be implicated. One had to know that Di Wenhong was a Sea of Consciousness 5th celestial layer expert. He was much stronger than them. If they were implicated, they might suffer heavy injuries. Lin Tian's face turned cold. He stood up and kicked the bench in front of him. With a bang, the bench was smashed into pieces by Di Wenhong's palm. Brother Lin's reaction is pretty good, Di Wenhong said. Saying this, he increased his speed and once again rushed towards Lin Tian. You're looking for trouble, Lin Tianling said. Brother Lin, you're thinking too much. I'm just itching to fight. I want to exchange some battle experience with Brother Lin Tian. Di Wenhong narrowed his eyes. In the distance, Ji Yu frowned, showing some displeasure. Di Wenhong forcing Lin Tian to fight made her unhappy. Girl, just watch. He won't lose. Yu Wushuang said. I know. Girl, you're too blindly confident in him. You haven't even married him yet. Master, you're doing it again. I'm just joking. Keep watching, keep watching. In the martial arts stage, Di Wenhong sent palm after palm towards Lin Tian. Every palm caused the air to tremble. It was as if he was waving a hand blade. The power was quite oppressive, causing many onlookers to feel apprehensive. At this time, the two people weren't fighting on the main stage, but on the martial arts stage. It was a bit chaotic. Brother Lin, please don't be lenient, Di Wenhong said. Saying this, Di Wenhong's attacks became heavier. His palm shot out like a gust of wind. Lin Tian's face was cold. He clenched his right hand into a fist and sent out a shattering meteor fist. The tyrannical power forced Di Wenhong to retreat several steps. Since you're looking for trouble, I'll help you. Saying this, the heart-soul sword appeared in his hand. He shook the long sword, and the azure thunder sword whistled as it slashed towards Di Wenhong. Clang! The sound of thunder resounded in all directions. A Zhonglong sword light swept across, causing everyone to tremble. Di Wenhong's expression changed. He obviously didn't expect Lin Tianyi to use such a powerful sword attack. Of course, he was still a core disciple of the Seven Mysteries Pavilion. Although this sword attack was powerful, it wasn't enough to make him care. With a clang, a precious long saber appeared in his hand. With a single slash, he shattered Lin Tian's azure thunder sword wind into pieces. Good sword art. Di Wenhong smiled. His long saber shook, creating a sky full of saber shadows. This one is not talented, but I managed to learn the Seven Mysteries Pavilion's strongest martial skill, the Great Mystery Saber Technique. The saber technique is divided into 9 layers. Now that I've comprehended the 4th layer, I hope Brother Lin Tian can enlighten me. I hope that we can both improve our sword and saber techniques. As soon as he finished speaking, the sound of saber resounded. Di Wenhong created a sky full of saber shadows that pressed towards Lin Tian. This is the 7 Mysteries Pavilion's strongest martial skill, the Great Mystery Saber Technique. So powerful. There are too many saber shadows. It's hard to parry. Too strong. Many people whispered. Lin Tian's face was cold and indifferent. He pushed the Azure Thunder Sword skill to the limit. At the same time, the power of fire flowed out. He directly swung the Red Thunder Sword, and with a slash, the violent power of the Red Thunder Sword swept up a hurricane, shattering everything in its path. Di Wenhong frowned, and his saber aura became even stronger. In the blink of an eye, the two had exchanged more than 10 moves. That Burning Sun Sect's Lin Tian actually blocked senior brother Di Wenhong's attack. Could it be that he wasn't afraid to fight just now? Was it really because he didn't want to fight? Outside the martial stage, many female disciples of the Valley of the Harp stared at Di Wenhong. These people were really surprised. One had to know that Di Wenhong was a core disciple of the 7 Mysteries Pavilion, and his reputation wasn't small. He was the leader of the 7 Mysteries Pavilion's team this time. But Lin Tian was only an ordinary disciple of the Burning Sun Sect. But now, he actually blocked Di Wenhong's attack. This really shocked them. Dang! 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 Inside the martial stage, the saber and sword constantly collided. Lin Tian's face was cold and indifferent. Slash after slash, the light of the Red Thunder Sword shook the sky. Di Wenhong's face sank. The Great Mystery Saber Technique was divided into 9 layers, and he had consecutively slashed out the first 2 layers, but he still couldn't suppress Lin Tian. This made him a little surprised. After all, Lin Tian was only an ordinary inner disciple of the Burning Sun Sect. How could an ordinary inner disciple have such a strong battle strength? Junior brother Lin is really unexpectedly strong. Xinyan also wants to ask for advice. A voice sounded. Chapter 249. Many onlookers were surprised by Shun Yan's sudden participation, but soon some people cheered. These people didn't know that Shun Yan and Lin Tian had a conflict. They only thought that she was here to ask for advice. At this time, only a few female disciples with Shun Yan had a slight change in expression. Further away, Jiyu was obviously angry. Too much! After saying that, Jiyu stepped forward. She clearly felt Shun Yan's bad intentions. Yu Wushuang pulled her back. Don't be anxious. Master. Jiyu frowned. Those 2 are at the 5th heavenly layer. Maybe he can block one of them, but if the 2 of them attack together, even if he is stronger, it will be difficult to deal with him. Little Yu, don't worry too much. Look at his expression. Yu Wushuang said. Jiyu looked at the field. Although Lin Tian was forced to retreat, his expression was surprisingly calm. Jiyu was stunned. Lin Tian's expression was very calm, as if everything was under control. This made Jiyu very surprised. After all, Lin Tian was only at the 3rd heavenly layer. How could he be so calm in the face of 2 5th heavenly layer powerhouses? Yu Wushuang narrowed her eyes. I'm also very curious about what he is relying on. Let's continue watching. In the field, the sword and saber collided. The ear-piercing sound reverberated, causing many people to cover their ears. Lin Tian held the inner spirit sword. The thunder flame sword swept out, slashing out a bright sword light. At the same time, it collided with Di Wenhong and Xinyan. At this time, in the eyes of outsiders, he looked a little embarrassed. Facing the 2, he kept retreating. Brother Lin is really strong. Take my mysterious 3rd saber. Di Wenhong narrowed his eyes. With a loud clang, the long saber in Di Wenhong's hand vibrated, and suddenly, a huge astral blade appeared above his head, and a tyrannical true chi fluctuation swept up a fierce wind, causing the many spectators outside the martial stage to feel their hearts palpitate. Lin Tian brandished the heart spirit sword. The blade trembled, and the thunder flame sword force was raised to the limit. He ruthlessly slashed out. Boom! The saber energy and the sword energy collided, and both of them took a few steps back. They were evenly matched. That Lin Tian was able to completely block senior brother Di Wenhong's great mystery third blade. How is this possible? The disciples of the Seven Mysteries Pavilion were all shocked. The many female disciples in the Valley of the Harp outside the martial arts practice field were also surprised. They never thought that an ordinary inner disciple of the Burning Sun sect would be so strong. Di Wenhong's expression also became serious. The first two layers of the great mystery blade art had been blocked by Lin Tian. This was already very surprising, but what he didn't expect was that the third layer of the great mystery blade art would also be blocked. Xiao! The sound of something breaking through the air rang out. On the other side, Shunyan moved, slashing at Lin Tian from the side. Shunyan's eyes were filled with obvious hatred. His sword was ruthless and merciless, aiming straight for Lin Tian's vital points. Lin Tian was expressionless as he casually slashed out with the Heart Spirit sword. In comparison, although Shunyan was also at the fifth layer of the Sea of Consciousness, his battle strength was slightly weaker than Di Wenhong's. Lin Tian held the Heart Spirit sword, and the Thunder Flame sword chi shot out, colliding with Shunyan. The tyrannical sword intent wantonly scattered. Clang! At this time, Di Wenhong once again pressed forward. Lin Tian's eyes were somewhat cold, but his face was expressionless. In fact, since they were already fighting, he also wanted to see to what extent he could withstand facing two Sea of Consciousness fifth-layer powerhouses at the same time. In the blink of an eye, the three people had already exchanged more than 100 moves. That Lin Tian, fighting 1 against 2, is actually able to withstand for so long without being defeated? At this time, everyone's expression changed. Lingyi stared at Lin Tian, his face slightly gloomy. Obviously, he was also shocked by Lin Tian's powerful battle strength. Clang! Sword and blade collided, true essence intertwined, and various martial skills were extremely dazzling. Lin Tianyi faced the two people while retreating. At this time, he more or less realized how far he could go. Under the premise of not using the weapon controlling technique, with his current battle strength, facing one person was not a problem. However, if he faced two people at the same time, it was completely impossible to win. Defeat was only a matter of time. Boom! True essence violently surged, and the three people's attacks became even more shocking. At this time, Lin Tian gradually fell into a disadvantageous position, constantly being forced to retreat by Di Wenhong and Xinyan. In the distance, Suyu had his hands behind his back. His expression was indifferent, and from time to time, he would reveal a sneer. "Brother Lin, I'm going to use the fourth sword. Please be careful," Di Wenhong said. Although he was smiling, a cold light flashed in the depths of his eyes. As his words fell, with a boom, the aura on his body suddenly soared. His whole person seemed to have merged with the long sword in his hand, and the sword light was terrifying. The third sword. Xinyan's voice sounded. With a cold light in his eyes, hatred and killing intent, Xinyan pushed the third sword of the White Lotus Sword Codex to the extreme. Suddenly, two majestic waves swept across the martial arts practice field, causing everyone's heart to tremble. It's impossible for Lin Tian to block this attack. That is inevitable. They are core disciples of two sects after all. Moreover, their cultivation bases are at the fifth heavenly layer of the Sea of Wisdom. Facing such an attack, no matter how strong that Lin Tian is, he can only lose. However, even if he is defeated, Lin Tian can be proud. Facing two core disciples of two sects, he can actually fight until now. He is really too strong. If it's a one-on-one battle, the two of them may not be his opponents. Very likely. Speaking of which, in this scene, Lin Tian won't be in danger, right? The attacks of those two are really... Don't worry, he won't. It's just an exchange of blows. That's true. This battle is really too exciting. Many people stared straight ahead. Di Wenhong's eyes were cold, and his sword aura was becoming more and more terrifying. As for Xun Yin, the killing intent in her eyes gradually revealed. After being humiliated by Lin Tian yesterday, she joined this battle to embarrass Lin Tian and take the opportunity to kill Lin Tian. In the end, even if she killed Lin Tian, she could use accident as an excuse. Cut! Xun Yin shouted, and sword lotuses flew around her face, rolling towards Lin Tian. At the same time, Di Wenhong's sword aura also pressed down. In an instant, two violent auras erupted like a mountain flood, rushing forward. Brother Lin, if you can't resist, you must speak immediately so that I can quickly withdraw my sword aura. Di Wenhong smiled. Facing this sword and sword, Lin Tian's face didn't have the slightest change in emotion. You should think about yourself first. At this time, he didn't want to hold back, and he couldn't hold back anymore. After all, this attack was really terrifying. Clang! As soon as he finished speaking, long swords appeared around him. The sound of swords reverberated, and 15 brilliant swords appeared, all emitting a dazzling sword aura. This is... Yu Wushuang's face suddenly changed, as if she saw something inconceivable. In another direction, the indifference on Su Yu's face disappeared. How is this possible? The 15 brilliant swords vibrated, and like 15 lightning bolts, they rushed out, instantly shattering Di Wenhong's sword aura and shattering Xun Yan's sword aura, causing the two to stagger back a dozen steps. 100 Refinement's secret technique? Di Wenhong's face changed. How can you know the 100 Refinement's house's strongest secret technique? Where did you steal it from? Xun Yin screamed. At this time, in this place, everyone's face changed. This, 15 swords flying across the sky, it's the 100 Refinement's secret technique. He's a disciple of the Burning Sun sect. How? How can he know that secret technique? The 100 Refinement's secret technique was the 100 Refinement's house's strongest secret technique, also known as the Four Great Sects' strongest secret technique. It focused entirely on offense and was known to be invincible in the same realm. In the entire 100 Refinement's house, there were only a few people who had the qualifications to learn this secret technique. But now, a Burning Sun sect disciple had actually displayed the 100 Refinement's secret technique. Thank you for forcing me to practice with my sword. Now it's my turn to repay you, so don't be polite. Lin Tianhan said coldly. As soon as his words fell, the 15 brilliant swords moved in a crisscross pattern, clanging. Di Wenhong and Xun Yan's faces changed. One of them was facing 8 swords, while the other was facing 7 swords. These swords attacked from different angles at the same time, and even with their strength, it was difficult for them to resist. In a short moment, they were injured, and blood floated in the air. Di Wenhong let out a muffled groan as his shoulder was grazed by a sword. On the other side, Xun Yan's situation was even worse. His clothes were torn in an instant, and there were many bloody marks on his body. Staring at this scene, everyone was stunned. Just a moment ago, Lin Tiantan was in an absolute disadvantage, but in the blink of an eye, the situation changed so quickly. In the blink of an eye, Di Wenhong and Xun Yin were suppressed, and they had no strength to resist at all. Just now, he didn't use his full strength? Is it really like what he said? Just now, he was using the two of them to practice his sword? Many people were shocked. At this time, Lin Tiantan didn't move, but the 15 brilliant swords were shaking violently, constantly slashing towards Di Wenhong and Xun Yin. Even though the two of them were incomparably powerful, they couldn't resist at all. Brother Lin, the exchange ends here. That's enough. Di Wenhong shouted. Why are you in such a hurry? Didn't you want to exchange pointers? This is just the beginning. We can slowly exchange pointers. Lin Tian's expression was calm. There are many senior and junior sisters and senior and junior brothers here watching. Our battle might be able to give them some inspiration. Perhaps some of them might accidentally break through. Just treat it as a contribution. Yu Pu. A brilliant sword slashed down diagonally, grazing Di Wenhong's right arm, almost cutting it off. On the other side, Xun Yin retreated step by step, Facing the 7 brilliant swords, his resistance was getting weaker and weaker, and he was in a very sorry state. "All right, I forgot about you." Lin Tiantan swept his gaze over. With a swoosh, as his divine sense moved, the 7 brilliant swords actually formed a small sword array in the air. The momentum of the array suddenly became more shocking, and in an instant, Shen Yin was even more exhausted to deal with it. In just a short moment, he was injured again. "Lin Tianan, you, pa!" A brilliant sword suddenly rushed out, and the back of the sword swept across, like a slap to Shen Yan's face. With a bang, Shen Yan's whole body was sent flying more than 10 meters away, fiercely crashing into a corner of the arena. P.S. Next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 3 days of eruption. If there is no accident, 5 updates a day. Chapter 250. Lin Tian was still somewhat lenient. After all, this was the Valley of the Harp. If he were to severely injure or kill someone because of a competition, it would bring a lot of trouble to Yu Wushuang. Therefore, he controlled himself very well. However, even though he showed them some mercy, he wouldn't let them off easily. These 2 people didn't have good intentions. Clang! Sword light flashed, and 8 swords rushed towards Di Wenhong. Di Wenhong resisted with all his strength, using the great mystery blade technique again and again. However, facing 8 swords, it was difficult to deal with. "Lin Tian, stop! We've exchanged pointers enough," Di Wenhong shouted. "At first, you wanted to exchange pointers and force me to make a move. Now, I'm telling you to stop," Lin Tiantan said indifferently. Saying this, his divine sense moved, and the 8 swords spun and slashed towards Di Wenhong. Di Wenhong's face was gloomy. He was both shocked and angry. Even with his sea of knowledge 8th heavenly layer cultivation, it was still very difficult for him to resist 8 swords at the same time. The most important thing was that these 8 swords always attacked him from various angles. Pooh! One of the swords slashed, directly hitting Di Wenhong's chest. "You," staring at Lin Tian, Di Wenhong's face was extremely ugly. Lin Tian's face was indifferent. "What's wrong? You are a core disciple of the 7 Mysteries Pavilion. Why are you hiding your strength?" Hearing this, Di Wenhong's face became even uglier. Lin Tian was clearly humiliating him. In the distance, Shen Yin stood up, her face gloomy, and turned to leave. "Coming and going as you please. Isn't that not good?" Lin Tiandao said. As soon as he finished speaking, 7 swords flew over and completely blocked Shen Yan's path. One of the swords directly slashed down. Shen Yin used the White Lotus Sword technique to resist. From the first to the 3rd sword, the tyrannical sword intent shocked many of the surrounding disciples, but the effect was not obvious. This was because every time she used her sword technique, 4 of the 7 swords would retreat while the other 3 would attack. When the attacking 3 swords were knocked away, the remaining 4 swords would immediately surround them. Therefore, Shen Yin did not have the chance to rest at all. "Lin Tian, you stole 100 Refinements Workshop's secret martial skill. 100 Refinements Workshop will not let you off," Shen Yin shouted. Many people around were moved. Why did these words sound a little different? "Didn't you come up here to ask for pointers? Why are you threatening me now?" Lin Tianling smiled. As he spoke, he held the inner spirit sword and walked toward Shen Yin. With a whoosh, his figure instantly appeared in front of Shen Yin. "You, bang!" Lin Tian lifted his leg and kicked Shen Yin's lower abdomen, sending him flying several feet away. "Looks like the lesson I gave you yesterday was not enough. Just as well, I'll make it up to you today." Lin Tian's voice was a little indifferent. As his words fell, he appeared in front of Shen Yin again in the next moment and kicked out again. "Do you think I can't see the killing intent in your eyes? You want to take the opportunity to kill me?" Hearing this, there was an uproar. What's going on? Why would senior sister Shen want to kill that Lin Tian? Isn't this an exchange of cultivation? Many people were moved and looked at Shen Yin in disbelief. Many people began to discuss. Shun Yin was a little crazy, and her eyes became ferocious. "I want you dead." As she spoke, an even more violent aura rushed out of her body. In this violent, genuine chi, everyone clearly felt a clear, killing intent. Lin Tianling smiled, and the Thunderfire sword shook violently. Buzz! Lightning intertwined, and a chill spread out. A murderous intent far more powerful than Shun Yan's was unleashed, which shocked everyone. Even Yu Wushuang, who was far away, was moved. To be able to unleash such a terrifying, murderous intent at such a young age and level of cultivation, it was even more powerful than some airborne realm fighters. That's right. He broke into the palace and slaughtered 3 martial arts families. This is the killing intent he accumulated, Yu Wushuang said to herself. As this terrifying killing intent spread, Xinyan trembled and her whole face turned pale. Her spiritual ether instantly collapsed, and the hand holding the sword trembled. This killing intent was completely suppressed by Lin Tian toward Xinyan. The terrifying chill was like a torrent, directly breaking Shun Yan's spiritual defense, causing him to be terrified. "Get lost!" Lin Tianling spat out a word coldly. The inner spirit sword shook, and the sword wind rolled up, directly sending Shun Yan flying. With a bang, Shun Yan fell 30 feet away in a sorry state. Suddenly, the female disciples of the Valley of the Harp ran over. "Senior sister." Several female disciples were shocked. In the distance, Su Yu's eyes were cold. She wanted to make a move several times, but in the end, she held back because she saw Yu Wushuang on the other side. If she really did make a move, she would definitely be stopped by Yu Wushuang. "You actually stole the 100 Refinements secret technique of the 100 Refinements workshop. After this, I'll see how you live." Su Yu stared at Lin Tian coldly. In the field, Lin Tian felt the cold gaze and turned his head to look. "Old witch." Seeing Su Yu standing there, he coldly spat out 3 words. Lin Tian's voice was not loud, but Su Yu was an airborne realm expert. Naturally, she knew what Lin Tian was talking about. Her face suddenly became gloomier. Lin Tian retracted his gaze and looked at Di Wenhong. With a clang, in an instant, 15 long swords were aimed at Di Wenhong, and all of them rushed over. "Brother Lin, quickly stop!" Di Wenhong shouted. Lin Tian's eyes were indifferent. "Learn from each other? Do you think I don't know what you're planning? I'll give you a warning. Put away your tricks." The 15 long swords vibrated, leaving sword marks on Di Wenhong's body. "Lin Tian, stop. It's just a spar. Do you want to commit murder?" Ling Yi shouted. Moreover, Ling Yi stepped forward, wanting to stop Lin Tian. "Get lost!" In Lin Tian's hand, the inner spirit sword was raised, and the thunder flame sword swept over forcefully, forcing Ling Yi to take a few steps back. Immediately, Ling Ye's face became extremely pale. Lin Tian stood where he was, and the 15 swords circled around Di Wenhong, continuously slashing at him. From time to time, they would leave sword wounds on his body. However, these sword wounds all avoided the vital points, only making Di Wenhong feel intense pain and unspeakable humiliation. They were not a threat to his life at all. "Lin Tian, don't go too far," Di Wenhong shouted. Lin Tian smiled. "So what if I go too far?" As soon as he finished speaking, the swords vibrated, and one of them directly pierced through Di Wenhong's right arm. This time, Di Wenhong could not bear it and finally let out a scream. Many people were stunned. Even though it was supposed to be an exchange of pointers, they had never imagined that things would escalate to such an extent. "Senior Brother Di, this is too much. Stop! Stop!" The people of the 7 profound pavilions shouted angrily. Some people even rushed towards Lin Tian, but after taking 3 steps, they were sent flying by Lin Tian's sword. Looking at this scene, many people swallowed their saliva. This was too abnormal. That Di Wenhong, why did he provoke that ruthless person? Did he have nothing better to do? He brought this upon himself. Several Burning Sun sect's inner disciples muttered. When Lin Tian was in the Burning Sun sect, his fierce reputation was extremely widespread, and these inner disciples were very clear. On the martial arts practice field, at this moment, the battle was already one-sided. Di Wenhong screamed from time to time, and his body was covered with sword wounds. With this level of strength, he really thinks he's number one in the world. Lin Tianling said. The 15 swords continuously slashed down. His figure flashed, and he arrived in front of Di Wenhong, kicking him horizontally. With a bang, this kick landed directly on the side of Di Wenhong's head, sending him flying 3 zhang away. Senior brother, the 7 Mysteries Pavilion's disciples shouted, and quickly rushed over. There, Di Wenhong fell to the ground, completely unconscious. A group of people helped Di Wenhong up and glared at Lin Tian with anger. However, they did not dare to say anything, as they were shocked by Lin Tian's fierceness. Without paying attention to the crowd's expressions, Lin Tian put away the 15 swords and walked out of the martial arts practice field. Seeing him walk over, the group of people in front of him instantly jumped out of the way. Damn it! Looking at Lin Tian's back, the 7 Mysteries Pavilion's disciples had ugly expressions. This time they had lost a lot of face. In an instant, everyone in the martial arts practice field looked at each other in dismay. This brat! Yu Wuxuang stared at Lin Tian's departing figure. She first smiled, but then her expression became serious. Glancing at Su Yu in the distance, Yu Wuxuang said to Ji Yu, "Xiao Yu, bring him to see me. Is there a problem?" Ji Yu was puzzled. There is indeed a problem. Go, Yu Wuxuang said. Ji Yu nodded and chased after Lin Tian's figure. After Lin Tian left the martial arts practice field, the cultivation exchange ended quickly. After all, how could they continue after such a battle? At this time, Lin Tian followed Ji Yu to an elegant pavilion in the Valley of the Harp. Yu Wuxuang was sitting inside. Senior, is there a problem? Lin Tian asked. Yu Wuxuang nodded and said, "The technique you used just now, was it the 100 Refinements secret technique of the 100 Refinements workshop?" Staring at Lin Tian, Yu Wuxuang's expression was serious. No. Yu Wuxuang frowned. As far as she knew, only the 100 Refinements secret technique could achieve this. Lin Tian shook his head. No. How could I learn the techniques of the 100 Refinements workshop? Yu Wuxuang nodded. Indeed, it was impossible for Lin Tian to learn the 100 Refinements secret technique. After thinking for a while, she asked again, "Did you use this technique before this?" Yes. Lin Tiandao told her about his battle with Bai Yunfei. Yu Wuxuang said, "In short, you have to be careful of the people of the 100 Refinements workshop in the future. I believe that you don't practice the techniques of the 100 Refinements workshop, but you know a martial technique that's almost the same as the 100 Refinements secret technique. The people of the 100 Refinements workshop will probably make trouble for you. This cultivation exchange can't continue. In a while, Xiaoyu will take you around the valley. When you go back to the Burning Sun sect tomorrow, you don't have to go with the others. I'll personally send you back." Lin Tianyi was stunned. "You're sending me back?" Yu Wuxuang's words really surprised him. According to the time, when you came to the Valley of the Harp, Bai Yunfei should have just returned to the 100 Refinements workshop. He should have already told the owner of the 100 Refinements workshop about everything. He might have even alarmed the elders of the Burning Sun sect. Yu Wuxuang said, "The 100 Refinements secret technique is known as the strongest technique of the 4 great schools. You know a technique similar to the 100 Refinements secret technique, so the 100 Refinements workshop won't let you go easily. Using this as an excuse, I'm afraid that when you return to the Burning Sun sect, there will be a flying powerhouse from the 100 Refinements workshop waiting for you. If that's really the case, you'll definitely die." Lin Tianyi was shocked. He hadn't thought about this before, but now that he heard Yu Wuxuang mention it, his expression changed slightly. Indeed, the weapon manipulation technique he practiced was too similar to the 100 Refinements secret technique. Even if he knew that it wasn't the 100 Refinements secret technique, the 100 Refinements workshop wouldn't think so. Taking a step back, even if the 100 Refinements workshop knew that their techniques had never been leaked, they still wouldn't tolerate someone using a technique similar to the 100 Refinements secret technique. It was very likely that the 100 Refinements workshop would make a move against him. Don't worry too much. Once I send you back to the Burning Sun sect, there won't be any more problems. Yu Wushuang said, although the current head of the Burning Sun sect and your master aren't blood brothers, they're closer than blood brothers. He'll definitely do his best to protect you. After you return to the Burning Sun sect, as long as you don't leave the mountain, the people of the 100 Refinements Workshop won't be able to do anything to you. Lin Tian nodded, bowed seriously, and expressed his gratitude to Yu Wushuang. The head of a sect had a very high status, yet she was going to personally send him back to the Burning Sun sect. This kindness was not light. Most importantly, this wasn't his request, but Yu Wushuang herself. This made him feel even more grateful. It's fine. You're the disciple of an old drunkard, and you'll be Little Yu's future husband. It's only natural that I help you, Yu Wushuang said. After leaving Yu Wushuang's place, Lin Tian frowned, thinking about what Yu Wushuang had just said to him. What did Master say to you? You've been pulling a long face ever since you came out, Jiyu asked. When Yu Wushuang and Lin Tian were talking, Jiyu wasn't allowed to listen. She didn't want Jiyu to worry about Lin Tian's safety and affect her cultivation. Therefore, Jiyu didn't know what the two were talking about in the room. It's nothing. Lin Tian quickly relaxed his brows, and a smile appeared on his face. Jiyu said, "Oh." Although she found something strange, she didn't ask further since Lin Tian didn't want to talk about it. After that, she led Lin Tian around the Valley of the Harp. They passed by some quiet pavilions, some secluded green forests, and some cultivation areas. Not long after, they arrived in front of a stone wall at the back of the Valley of the Harp. Looking at it, the stone wall seemed to be quite large and carved with lifelike stone lotuses. This is the White Lotus Sword Wall, one of the most important places in the Valley of the Harp, Jiyu said. Lin Tian Wei was stunned. Then why did you bring me here? I'm not from the Valley of the Harp. Master said it doesn't matter. She can take you anywhere in the Valley of the Harp, Jiyu said. Lin Tian said, oh. Since Yu Wushuang said so, he didn't mind. The sun was setting. Lin Tian stared at the stone wall for a few dozen breaths, and then prepared to leave for the next place. However, at this moment his knowledge sea suddenly shook. He saw that the originally ordinary stone lotuses on the stone wall in front of him seemed to come alive at this moment, swaying slightly. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.